a deliberately false account of events. A South Donegal deputy has raised concerns over accommodation for Ukrainian refugees with the Integration Minister, Rodrigo Gorman. Deputy Marion Harkin told the Dáil one person fears they can no longer afford to house refugees as they're awaiting payment from the government of over €400,000. She says there's also an issue with people who are offering to provide accommodation, but they're being passed from one agency to another.
One constituent gave a house to a Ukrainian family before there was any money involved. That family subsequently returned to Ukraine, and since the end of last September, that family have been trying to get another Ukrainian family into their house, but they're being bounced from one agency to another, local authority, Red Cross, IOM, and generous, decent people are beginning to lose patience.
The European Commission is taking Ireland to court for failing to adequately protect the country's rivers and lakes and their waters. According to the Commission, Ireland has been in breach of an EU directive on the issue more than 20 years. Pollution, damage to banks and artificial interference with flow have all caused deterioration in water quality. John Gibbons, an environmental journalist and commentator, says Ireland should be striving for higher water quality.
It is disappointing, all right, that a state like Ireland has to be dragged kicking and screaming by the European Union into complying with something that benefits first and foremost Irish people. In other words, healthy watercourses are obviously something that we should aspire to, and it is strange to have a national government, as I say, being compelled to do this.
Any lingering frost and fog will clear this morning, leaving brighter sunny spells. It'll stay dry most of the day. Cloud will build from the northwest with some outbreaks of rain later this evening. Cool today, top temperatures 6 to 8 degrees Celsius. They'll fall to 3 to 6 degrees tonight with outbreaks of rain moving through the region. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 10 o'clock.
There you are, at the counter in your local shop to pay for a coffee and a bun. A little midweek treat. And why not? Only to look up and see the display of scratch cards. And you think, why not treat yourself to an all-cash scratch card too? A win really would be the icing on the cake. With millions in cash prizes to be won instantly, the next time you're in store, ask for any all-cash scratch card. The National Lottery. It could be you. Play responsibly. Play for fun.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. 4 minutes past 9. It's Friday, the 27th of January 2023. I do hope you are well. And we've another busy show for you this Friday morning. Very shortly introduce to you our Friday panel later on. Michael and Fanil will be in with us, and there's so much more besides. Involve yourself in the conversation by WhatsApp and text 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or by giving us a call on 07491 25,000. Comments at highlandradio.com is your email. And don't forget, if you want to, you can watch us on your big screen, on your Fire Stick Smart TV. Go to YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, or across our Facebook pages on Facebook Watch. Or so even on our website, highlandradio.com. All right, without further ado, let's say good morning to Councillor Nicholas Cross, an independent councillor in the Inishowen Municipal District. Good morning to you. Nicholas, how are you keeping?
Greg. Good morning, listeners.
It's good to have you on board again. Maria Rush is the owner and manager of Rush Fitness and a writer also. Hi, Maria.
Good morning, guys. How are we today?
Fantastic. Great to see you. And last but certainly not least, the editor of the Tyrconnell Tribune newspaper, Mr. John McAteer. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Greg.
Good to have you with us. Okay, quite a bit to get through. Let's start with an emerging story over the last couple of days, although it's not really emerging, but locally at least. As we all know, a debate is raging about the arrival of international protection individuals into Donegal, some arriving in Letterkenny, others in Lifford. Concerns range from conditions that they must live in to the impact their arrival might have on the general area, without going into specific details there. My understanding is Gardaí have had no issues with refugees in the Letterkenny area in recent times, but at the same time, the information they have on the new arrivals, I understand also, is somewhat limited. Now, we'd see across the country protests taking place against their arrivals. It's a mixture of concerned residents and then maybe others with their own motivations. And at the same time, then we've got the government themselves effectively saying Ireland is full, you could argue, in advising new applicants there's no space for them here. They effectively will become homeless. And a similar message was conveyed to Ukrainian refugees. So how do you read the situation, Maria, and how do we progress from here, do you think?
I think this is going to be a story that's going to continue to just circle and circle and circle and circle. And, you know, the people involved in this are coming from incredibly difficult situations. The people who are involved in the communities in which maybe large numbers are arriving into are dealing with incredibly difficult situations. There is no right or wrong answer here. There is no... I don't know how we find a medium ground. What I do see and what I've seen in the last few hours as well online is, or last few weeks, never mind the last few hours, is a massive opposition. There's no such thing as having a moderated debate about things anymore. You're either for or against. And I think that's something that very much is evident at the minute with the situation, that there's no... Anybody who tries to speak to say, this is the reality, these are the facts, here's what's happening, if that doesn't comply with the views of others, they then become...
There's no nuance in the conversation at all, is there? It's either, you know, fling the doors wide open or pull up the drawbridge. There doesn't seem to be any space in between that for a conversation.
Yeah. And there has to be management of it as well, though, in fairness. Like, we can't just... it can't be one side against the other. There has to be a conversation. And I know these conversations have been happening, but unfortunately on the ground, we're not seeing the results of very many conversations. It seems to be that people are arriving, people are questioning things, they're not getting answers. You have the media offering different opinions. You've got one article saying, here are the facts and figures about why this is not a problem. You've got another national broadcaster or national platform on the same day with a headline about, you know, them arriving with no travel documents and the amount of funding. You've got local conversations happening. You've got the other side of that too, is the experiences of people who are dealing with and working with refugees and asylum seekers, and the people who are coming into our country who have nothing but positive experiences with them. You know, they're lovely people. They're integrating well into the society.
Well, there's nothing statistically to suggest at this point that, and listen, I remember protests against Polish people coming to live and work here. I mean, if you look at the statistics, there's no statistics as such to suggest that. I mean, like, say, I understand that people would be concerned about, you know, say, for instance, the safety of women and children, but our record in relation to the protection of women and children historically hasn't been fantastic either, as if, you know, the arrival of more people is all of a sudden this immediate threat that never existed before. Now, I'm not saying people might say, yes, well, things were bad enough, do you want them even worse? But I don't know how much of this is evidence-based. Then people might look to what's happened in other European countries and seen how, you know, an influx of people, how it's affected and created dynamics. You know, so there is evidence there. Dependent on what your view is, I think you can root out evidence to back it up effectively.
And that's it. And anybody can find evidence to back up whatever their opinion is on a particular day. You know, so I suppose that's where I'm coming from.
All right, John McAteer, how do we square the circle? You know, I mean, the policy is that you do not consult with people, you do not consult with local communities, and then you're firefighting because all of a sudden buses pull up in the middle of the night and people are instantly on guard as to, because, you know, we don't like uncertainty, we don't like a lack of knowledge, John.
We were amongst the first groups in Milford to have the Ukrainians in here, and ever since that, I suppose there's been a pretty good relationship. I've not heard too many complaints. In fact, I haven't heard any complaints, other than we've run a number of stories in the Cybercrime Tribune over the recent months, and it wasn't about how the refugees might be creating a problem. It was the fact that people close to working with them felt that there was overcrowded conditions in the places that they were staying, that there was far, far too many people in single rooms. In fact, we had complaints that on two issues that two couples had to share one space. Refugees are going to keep coming into Ireland. We're going to be very hard pressed to deal with them. I can see the social media going absolutely mad about it. I don't understand why that is, because we've lived with the refugees since last March, last April, and we don't see any issues or any problems with them. And we know that the more and more are going to come from talking to different sources in the past week. There's been a slowdown since prior to Christmas time. That is going to move on again. I think the situation is going to be somewhat more regulated, that the council is going to have much more of a role in the enforcement of the housing and the accommodation to try and avoid overcrowding. But the question is going to arise come Easter time, with contracts running out for 14,000 hotel beds and probably another 14,000 coming right in on top of that. We simply don't have space for them.
We'll get to that in a moment. I think
can't create it automatically.
I think the concerns I'm hearing expressed are not as much about the Ukrainian refugees, which are, I think, primarily made up of women and children. It would be the bus loads of international protection refugees, which seem to be primarily made up of males. And I think I think we can maybe differentiate between the two groups in terms of what I'm reading as a reaction, John.
I would understand that most of the refugees that we've been getting have been coming from eastern and southeastern Ukraine. And from what I can see, they get on well with the community. We're meeting them in the shops. We're meeting them on the streets in Milford. And I mean, what do we expect? People are totally displaced. Thousands and thousands of miles from home. How would we feel if we were landed into the very centre of Ukraine in the middle of a war, wondering where your loved ones are? Are they alive or are they dead? Are they going to survive the next onslaught from Putin? I haven't seen an issue with Ukrainians. I've taken lots of stories and lots of reports on them, but it was all a one-way traffic, in that the concerns were coming from the voluntary groups who were helping them and looking after them. And it was in the area that there was too many of them crammed together in the one space. But then when you look at it realistically, do we have space? Do we have accommodation? Do we have schools? Schools and health centres are a very, very big issue, because you have to try and accommodate all those people within those existing infrastructures that you have, and they're not capable of managing it or handling it. And they don't have the personnel, they don't have the teachers, they don't have the extra medical doctors, they don't have the nursing staff, they don't have any of that. So it's around that we have to try and cope with. But between direct provision and Ukrainians, I think there's about close to 85,000 people in Ireland that we hadn't bargained for. Now, with our own housing situation, and it is very relevant that we can't provide housing for our own people, it's an indication that the government they're going to have to move much faster to get modular housing in. And just listening to that on debate earlier on Micah, and the failure to do anything about modular homes here in Donegal, that's beyond my.
Well, that's a planning issue, and Nicholas, you know, like, we knew what our international. We couldn't have necessarily planned for the additional 50,000, 55,000 Ukrainians that are here, but we know what our responsibilities are in relation to, you know, offering international protection to other people from other parts of the country. We probably should have been able to predict that a tightening of the situation in Britain, what kind of an impact that would have on us. But in terms of providing extra hospital care, extra school places, extra GP care, extra accommodation, we're not really talking much, I don't think, about. There doesn't seem to have been any, you know, foresight or planning, even though much of this was predictable, Nicholas, some would argue.
Well, it did come on, as John rightly said, so since last February, March, that we have been having an influx of refugees from Ukraine. But as you're saying, is the problem seems to be with undocumented people. And that, a lot of that is hearsay, but people that come into any country, in particular to Ireland, they must come in at a focal point. And that is the place where they should be checked out. So if you're a genuine refugee coming from Ukraine, displaced by war, that's no problem. Then there's an onus on, suppose, the Irish government to help those people. But if somebody's coming in undocumented, and I'd like to see any of our crowd going to Australia or Canada or America or myself landing without a passport, to see what would happen. So there lies the problem. If those people are allowed through border control, where do they go then?
Yeah, and it's an interesting point, Nicholas, because a lot of this conversation is coming from a report that some people were tearing up their documents on the plane. Now, we have, I think it's 25,000 international protection individuals who aren't from Ukraine, but no one's officially come out and told us how many of those have arrived here without documents. Do you know what I mean? So in that vacuum of no information, the presumption is that they all must throw their passports out the window of the aeroplane once they get on it. But that's clearly not the case. But I don't know the figures. I can't quote or counter-argue because all that stuff seems to be a secret.
Well, I think that both yourself and John had to name. We were told 6 months ago in Donegal that there was no more refugees coming from Donegal because our schools, our doctors, our primary care centres were at capacity. So that we weren't able to take it. But since then, there has been an influx of both Ukrainian and others into Donegal. Some of the premises, look, they don't need planning, but they do need fire certs. So if they've got a fire cert, but they must be fit for purpose. And look, health and safety must come into this. And if you cram too many people together, there's only one thing that's going to happen, and that's there's going to be, there's a few different cultures coming together. It only spells for bother, really. But as you're well aware, Drew Harris was down last Monday week in Lifford, and there's no spike anywhere in the country regarding this of the influx of refugees into Ireland. Most of the people that I have
in terms of no spike in crime, you're saying?
There's no spike in crime in any of the parts of it. Obviously, there's going to be some trouble if there's too many people living in the one spot. But I think it's just we have to be very careful of the premises. Must be fit for purpose for these people to come into Ireland.
So, Maria, we've all sort of identified the problems, the issues, what might be causing it, what might be to come, but we're still not any further advanced, and maybe it's beyond us here on this call to sort of say, well, where do we go from here? Because between people's genuine concerns and agitators, I'm predicting it's only a matter of time before something really quite significant happens in this country.
Yeah, I think, what Nicola said there is true as well, that when you put loads of people in the services and aren't adequate, that's where we have issues, because what happens then, and we're seeing it in the health service, for example, the health service are overworked, they're overcrowded, they're underfunded, there is so much going on there for the people that are working on that front line, and they then can't cope daily with what is in front of them, and then we decide, right, well, who's to blame for that? And rather than blaming the people above with the pens and the decision making, we blame the people who are sitting and looking for the services. And when you're then looking and seeing perhaps people from different cultures or people from different areas coming in, and you think that you're more entitled, this is where we have an issue. So I think if we stop fighting with each other on the base of it and started to look from the top down about how can we fix the health service, how can we fix the education service, how we have to provide. And as the gentleman said there, we've known this isn't a new thing. This hasn't started yesterday. This has been going for a long time. We have the numbers. We know how many have arrived in. We know how many more are coming. And yet we're not seeing very much provision being made from the point of view of making sure that we have accessible services for everybody. So I don't know, when things go wrong, we tend to blame who we feel has caused them to go wrong, rather than looking at maybe solutions that could be made.
And John, just in terms of recent arrivals into Letterkenny, for example, my understanding is that there's no prior negotiation with Gardaí about it. I don't believe GPs are contacted or they're asked, they're not told if there's any extra capacity or what have you. I'm not sure an audit's done of schools in advance either, if that applies, if there are young people. Do you know, like, basic stuff that you would do to make sure people are well looked after? It doesn't seem to be happening. But is the case so dire in other parts of the world that that's just the way it has to be? I don't know. What is the...
I would imagine that the system at IPAS and at the Department of Social Integration was so overwhelmed with the numbers coming in the early days that they've never even come to terms with it. We probably don't even know officially how many of them have arrived here. We don't know where they're all staying, actually, because we were... back in the early days, into July, August, September, I was trying to source out numbers on a weekly basis, and I was getting different figures from all over the place. But then anecdotally, you were seeing people arrive in Milford that weren't on any list. And that made me wonder, how are these people being looked after? Who's responsible for them? As it got to a point that we are so overwhelmed, it's better to take them in than leave them in Ukraine where they could get bombed into Kingdom Come. You have to look at it in different ways. We're always going to have, in situations of that kind with 70,000 people, it's never going to be perfect. But when you add into the mix the social media and the kind of conversations that are taking place there, that all Ukrainians should be turned back and sent home, that's absolutely crazy. That's not going to happen. We're a very generous country. We have obligations to the United Nations. We have obligations otherwise as well. But on moral grounds, we have the biggest obligation of all, because for centuries, Irish people emigrated to the free world, and if they'd been turned back at Ellis Island, they would all have died. So you can't have that going on. We have to have we have a bit more respect for them and a bit more moderation.
Just before we take a break and move on, do any of you have any concerns that on an international level, we're not seeing any efforts to try and come up with a solution to the war in Ukraine? Now, I'm not saying that we should try and convince the Ukrainians to capitulate. I'm not saying that for a second. But what we are seeing instead from the West is them engaging in things that really are likely to see an escalation and to drive more people out of Ukraine. I'm talking about the supplying of weapons and tanks and what have you. And I understand why that is happening. But should there be another channel that we should be aware of, Maria, I'll ask you first, whereby we're trying to come up with some sort of a resolution to this? Because it seems, and I think, dare I quote Boris Johnson, I think he said yesterday in an article, look, we have to admit it here, Europe is at war with Russia. That's what's happening here. But there seems to be no movement towards any efforts to find peace, Maria. The tens of thousands of young fellas dying every week is horrendous to me. But
who? The problem, I suppose, is as well that who is responsible? Where does the buck stop in a situation like this? Because everyone is responsible to a certain extent. Everybody who's involved, every country has some responsibility. But even that we argue over. So I think it's so difficult to even kind of try to figure out where you could sit down and start to make changes, or who is supposed to sit at that table. The problem with every time you step into a kind of political situation is that with people getting into a room to try and make things better, everybody has their own agenda. Everybody has their own beliefs. Everybody has their own kind of background. So with the best will in the world, they may not agree on things simply because one person doesn't want to agree with John Joe across the table. So that's communication, that's politics, that's unfortunately the way things are. But I don't know. It's such an unfortunate situation. I can't see it getting any better before it gets worse. And when the people are having to flee their own country because they have no one to care for them there, that's bigger than all of us,
Yeah. Nicholas, would you like to see more efforts internationally to try and come up with some sort of a negotiated...
I think, Marie, when everybody gets into the one room, when France and England, or not France, England, Italy, Germany and other countries, and deciding what they're going to do, it's we're filled to capacity. Can you take any more? Regarding standing on tanks, Europe, or certainly Ukraine, is at war, and now with the supply of tanks coming in from different countries, God only knows what way Putin will look at this here. The Russian people, will they look at this here as an interference from other countries, interfering in Ukrainian, which he is saying that it belongs to the motherland. This is far from over, this Ukrainian war, and God only knows what it could escalate into. And maybe in a short few months, we could talking here, we mightn't be talking about refugees at all. We mightn't be talking about something a lot more serious and sinister than what's happening at this present moment in time.
John, quick word from you.
What we're looking at here is this is a war between America, NATO, and Russia for supremacy in whatever direction it's going to blow. We don't know. There is no hope at this point of any negotiated settlements, because it's all about firing up more tanks, more military, and more strength and more power. But they're now in that winter period of quiet where weather conditions are terrible. But the build-up is on there. By the next 6 weeks, a lot of those tanks will have made their way in there. And all that's going to happen is that tens and thousands, hundreds of thousands of young, innocent teenagers on either side of the campaign, and there are two sides to it. They're going to be cannon fodder in the name of international diplomacy, and that's a sad way for what's going on there, because the reality is that it's very likely at this point that at least 500,000 people combined have already lost their lives, and you have to ask, what for?
Nothing at this point. Okay, John, listen, thank you very much for that. Back with more from our guests and your comments as well after the break.
The 9 to Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, where you can now test drive the newest member of the iconic Corolla family, the Corolla Cross Hybrid Electric SUV.
Get a great Clarence gift this week from McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny. You'll receive 4 free beauty treats and a gorgeous beauty bag when you purchase 2 Clarence skincare products, one to be moisturiser or serum. This great Clarence offer is available while stocks last, in store at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less. For any skincare advice, call in and talk to the resident skincare consultants, Mary or Gemma.
So you're saying mental health difficulties can be smaller things?
Yeah.
Like trouble sleeping?
Yeah.
Or if I'm always stressed, like?
Yeah.
Or often anxious?
They're all part of your mental health.
Thought those were separate.
Nope. They're all connected.
Hey, how do you know all this anyway?
Sure, I've been there myself.
Anxiety, ongoing stress, low mood or trouble sleeping, they're all part of your mental health. Make the connection and find support that can help at yourmentalhealth.ie from the HSE.
The massive January sale is now on at Patterson's Kitchens, the Hall Lifford. Massive savings on kitchens, beds, sofas, dining sets and giftware, with up to 50% off selected mattresses. Hundreds of products in stock and ready for delivery or collection. Open Monday to Saturday 9 a.m. till 5:30 p.m. Get yourself down to Patterson's massive January sale.
Giving your time to be a Samaritan means being there for people who need someone. It means making a difference to someone when it really matters. Our volunteers come from all walks of life, and we'll be right behind you with training, support, and mentoring. For more information about volunteering, visit samaritans.org/volunteer.
Choices we make determine where we're going. Where will your choices take you? Visit Kelly's Toyota, Letterkenny or Mount Charles, and join the thousands of Irish swap diesel for Toyota Hybrid Electric, lowering their emissions and fuel costs. We've Ireland's widest hybrid electric range, including the Toyota CHR and Yaris Cross. Don't miss out. Order today at Kelly's Toyota, Letterkenny or Mount Charles. You'll never take a wrong turn with Toyota. Built for a better world.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Okay, political donations and expenses continue to dominate the news cycle. It's been over a week now. Proper order, or should we be focused on more important issues like we already have been this morning? So we go with the news editor, John McAteer. What do you think, John?
We've talked about this a few times and we'll no doubt talk about it again. The whole idea of a standard and public office ethical body was much needed back in the early in 2001 when it was founded. It replaced one that was regarded to be much out of date. We had more tribunals of inquiries, we had more corruption scandals. We have to look to the fact that we have this for a very specific reason, and that is to hold those in public office to account. And I suppose, Nicholas, you have to fill in forms every time you fight a local election, and you have to account for every cent that you spend. And it's probably not that easy. You're probably not spending a big fortune. But when it's a big party like Sinn Féin, they're caught there for a couple of €1,000. They didn't pay for a facility in the centre of Dublin. Not too sure how that thing happens, but on the wider scale of that, you've had the Pascal Donoghue thing rumbling on, and it didn't become so much about the fact that it was €234. I don't know how that arrived at, and how he couldn't have cleared that up the very first day that he spoke on the dial, and that it lingered on for another week. And other questions are being thrown into the mix there now. And we had the Damien English issue of the ownership of 2 houses. All of that feeds into a narrative of a lack of trust in politicians, and it feeds into, is SIPO past its sell-by date insofar as being restructured is concerned. We have been waiting for an electoral commissioner that is not yet appointed. There's a whole lot of things not yet appointed. But the standards in public office legislation, they're probably difficult to manage, but there's no reason for breaking them, because, you know, if you have doubts, you will contact them. There are 6 officers there. There's the Ombudsman, there's the Comptroller General, there's the Clerk of the Dáil in the Senate, there's a retired judge as chair, and there's an ex-senator. So they should be fit to manage that. But, you know, the year before last, there was almost 50 recommendations put down in the Dáil to help reform the system. They were all rejected. There's a report done on it that's gathering dust. So here we are now at the very start of 2023, and we have to trust in our politicians, because if we don't trust them, who in the hell do we trust them?
Yeah, and Sinn Féin, of course, facing its own SIPO investigation now over spend on a database. It's had to clarify the records as it relates to a number of issues over a couple of election cycles. Eamon Ryan, I kind of, you know, not sneered, but giggled a little bit when he said, if we start discussing this in the Dáil, if we get everyone to sort of be audited, no other work would get done. I'm paraphrasing him there, but Maria, maybe that is the case. I don't know. Is it a lack of interest in getting things right? Is it a complex? I mean, it shouldn't be beyond parties to get this stuff right, should it?
No. Funny, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there was one of the journalists in the Irish Times during the week, and she referred to it as a civil war in the Dáil, where basically one side got, you did this, well, you did this, well, you did this. And then the crowd that were throwing the accusations on Monday were then on Wednesday having to answer their own. Look, mistakes can be made. We're all human, whether it's in politics or business. You can, you know, especially when large amounts of money, not even large amounts of money, sometimes just your basic VAT returns for the month, receipts can be mislaid, mistakes can be made. However, when mistakes are made and the issue is highlighted, and the response is along the lines of, well, we didn't know, or we forgot, or we suddenly recollected, or I was unsure in my recollection, rather than just saying I made a mistake and I'm wrong, that's where the trust that you mentioned decides to go. I think a lot of the time with, you know, the idea of corruption and different things like that, it's a case of keep going, keep doing it until we get caught out. And then when we get caught out, we just say, oh, oops, you know, and that's to do with the property, all the different issues that have come up in the last few months, everything that has come to light between the public expenditure, the posters. I mean, the van commercial value suddenly appearing as €434.20. Like, where did that even come from? But all of a sudden it is, oh, oops, our bad, you know. But there's never an I'm sorry. There's never an apology. There's never a hands up that we shouldn't have done that. So there's a fine line between human error and purposely and happily making these decisions, assuming you're not going to get called out, and then when you do get caught or called out, then saying, well, I did this, but you did that. And that's where we then, as the public, sit and watching this through the social media, through the newspapers, through the news reports. That's where you start to wonder, who can you trust? And as you said there, if we can't trust the people who are leading us.
And I think it's not just in this area, it's absolutely everything in this country that has fallen into a fallacy of relative privation. There's actually a name of it, whereas our argument about something being okay is that it's not as bad as another thing.
That's it.
And it's whether it's to do with this, it's whether to do with housing, it's whether to do with immigration. Everything is just this fallacy of relative privation. Nicholas, your views on this topic?
Well, certainly it dominated the media for the past week with Pascal Donoghue. But I think it's very important. Anybody in public office is responsible and should be accountable for their actions. And if a mistake was made, John did say that councillors fill in their forms after election and before the 31st of January every year. We have to declare our interest. Do we own any property? Do we development land? Are we involved with county council hiring and machinery? Have we shares in businesses? We're asked our financial, everything, probably bar our bank statements, donations, expenses, whatever. So I think it's very, very important. Now, for the past 28 years, I filled in that form to the best of my ability, and I think every other councillor done it. That have I made a mistake in it? I don't think I did. But if I was notified of a mistake, I would certainly go and rectify it immediately. Now, most councillors fill in their own forms. I know some parties fill in all councillors' forms. And I think that's a bad idea because there's a scapegoat there. I didn't fill in that form. At least if I filled in my form, I'm responsible for it and I should be accountable for it. So I would agree that it did dominate. I actually happened, you couldn't believe it, I happened to be in the Dáil when the debate was going on, and I was sitting above the Pascal Donoghue listening in, and it was suppose if they knew, if some of the TDs knew what was coming down the next day, it mightn't have been as verbal, but it was pretty hectic there for a while. But look, the amount of money is, irrespective of what the amount of money it was, it should have been ratified in 2016 and 2020. That's my opinion of it. Took too long. Standards in public office, SIPO was there. They don't have an awful lot of power, or if they do have it, they certainly do not show it.
And people want immediate results now. I think the time frames and 2-3 years for things to come to light. Finally, before we take one more quick break.
Sorry, can I just...
Yes, go ahead, of course, Nicholas.
I think it was Maria said something. Small things that are overlooked then become the norm. And then after, I say it's not as bad as that way. But it doesn't really matter. You must be responsible and you have to be accountable.
The only problem I think we have, Maria, and I could be wrong, maybe this is something from within inside my own head coming out, but I'm not sure it benefits anyone really, because I think most of the public might go, well, sure, what do you expect? Do you know what I mean? I don't think people go all of a sudden, yes, that's that problem resolved right now. It's just like more a shrug of the shoulders, and that's why we have 60% of people bother voting.
Yeah, there's definitely an apathy and a complacency that comes with these things happening over and over and over again. And as you said, oh, here we go again, and then one event happens, and because something similar has happened so many times, it just becomes the norm. And then we just shrug our shoulders and go, well. But yes, as you said, Nicholas, things just people need to be responsible for their actions, and that's just it.
All right.
It also affects the general public in a very particular way as well, is that many people like to be affiliated to different parties. They like to be out and about, putting up posters, canvassing, and doing all the work that you do around election. In recent elections, as Nicholas, you will see, there's a reluctance of a younger generation to become very much involved in the whole political agenda, and there aren't enough young people out there. But the support base for political parties seems to have diminished enormously for election campaigns, and these kind of messages coming out here does not help, because at what point does something become commercial as opposed to being a voluntary thing? At the last election, there was about 7.3 million spent by about 530 candidates or thereabouts. Now that every last cent of that has got to be accounted for, every last meeting, what was corporate, what wasn't, what was donations. It's a pretty grey area when you look at it there. And it's I think the biggest losers here will be people will not want to get involved here, because if you're driving one of them white vans for commercial purposes, let you be a builder or a painter or something like that, if that is seen out, everybody's going to wonder how much are you getting for the even for putting
Johnny,
up posters.
and you posed a really interesting question. I just wonder how many of teenagers now, 13 to 19, will be engaged in politics on any level in not maybe this election cycle, but the next or the one after that. What's engaging them? What's bringing them in? What's hooking them?
They'll talk about politics right enough. They're pretty clued into politics. There's no two ways about that. But the participation at local level, we have it coming up in the local elections a year from May. It's going to be interesting to see, because candidates and councillors and people seeking re-election, they need the support of their community. They've got to get out and canvass. They can't canvass every door themselves, but will people now be afraid to be seen out canvassing with them? And what will the candidates think? Every candidate that has put in returns this last 2 or 3 elections will now be looking over their shoulders to see, did we do that right? Or do we owe the state some service by giving back another 30 or 40 euro?
Nicholas,
I don't know where it's going.
Are you looking forward to the next council elections?
Oh, certainly, Greg. Why wouldn't I? I love it. I love the canvas. I love going out and meeting people. It's probably sometimes, since COVID, it's only the time you will get to meet an awful lot of people since the last election. There's still I would agree with John. There's still an awful lot of people, youth out there, that have an interest in it. But it's up to yourselves, and there's an onus on media.
But will they? And you can make that point. Sorry, but yes, I know. Thankfully, we get opportunities to chat to them on this program. But will they, those with an interest in politics now, the teenagers we're talking of, will they be engaging with political parties? You know what I mean? In canvassing or in supporting or running for elections? That's kind of. I mean, they're there, but maybe they know enough that they might go, you know what? I don't want any part of that.
No, well, there's a possibility that the party faithful, as John said, might be slipping off, and it's a botheration, and I haven't got the time. But there's still a lot of interest at election time.
Okie doke, thanks. Yeah, go ahead, John.
But you can't have politics, Nicholas, without having the grassroots support, and you have to have a fair circle of support around you to get elected. Even at council level, it's pretty competitive, and I'm sure up on in the shown, with people like yourselves having to get out on the doorsteps, you're going to be hit with all this stuff, and confidence and trust in politicians, given that you have absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with it. And I mean, you're on the road long enough now to know that it's never going to be an easy task to get re-elected. But now that you've opened your campaign on Highland Radio this morning, let us wish you
Maria,
well.
they're looking for us young ones to get involved in politics. What do you think? Should we?
I think I'd get in trouble, Greg.
Okay, right.
We get involved in a very different way because we predict the future and hope that it'll happen.
Yes, and then make many predictions, so one might be correct. Okay, take care. Don't take care. Don't go anywhere. Take a breath there. We'll be back with more after this quick break.
The 9 to Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, where you can care for your car with Toyota Relax, giving you a year's warranty with your service. Terms and conditions apply.
We all need to top up now and again. If you're pregnant, your flu and COVID-19 vaccines will give your immune system the top-up it needs to help protect you in the months ahead. Both flu and COVID-19 can cause serious illness in pregnancy, and your vaccines will help protect you and your baby. So put a vaccine appointment on your to-do list or talk to your doctor or midwife. Visit hsc.ie for more information. From the HSC.
Urgent news. The Houseproud Group stock disposal sale at the Strabane store must end this Sunday. All remaining clearance stock has been transferred to the store and final price cuts made, with drastic reductions on furniture for every room. The massive stock disposal sale at Houseproud Abercorn Square, Strabane. Sale ends 6 p.m. Sunday. Also at the Oma store.
New me, new Nissan. Life's too short. Spoil yourself. Go on, you're worth it. With Nissans available for immediate delivery, don't let your neighbour outshine you. Call in today to find out why the Nissan range is unbeatable. With low interest rates available, it's an easy decision to start your 2023 on a good note. Visit imotors.ie or visit us in Malin or Letterkenny.
At Cooney's Home Interiors, we pride ourselves on offering you the very best in choice, quality and value on all home furnishings. Treat your home with a visit to Cooney's today and choose from our large range of suites, tables, beds, not to mention our large selection of home accessories. Our motto is, if you see it, you can buy it, and we will deliver it to your door. Cooney's Home Interiors, Letterkenny Retail Park. Style and perfection at incredible value.
At F&F, there's 25% off all clothing until this Sunday the 29th with your Tesco Club card. That's 25% off getting your extra fabulous new year, new wardrobe sorted. Now that's worth popping in for. F&F, fashion at Tesco. Products subject to availability. Available in the majority of larger stores.
Okay, a caller says, my doorstep is a politician-free zone. I wonder, will there be more of that? I don't know.
I would hope not, because your local politician is your main conduit with everything else in the country, and if you can't have a relationship with your own local councillor as a starting point, then you're onto a loser. Because I've been involved in politics over the years, writing about politics, out canvassing, spending money. Probably spending away above the limits on election campaigns with various candidates. But at the end of the day, your local politician, to me, is more important than the people we send up to the earth, because they're the first step on the ladder of democracy.
A caller says Ireland's position in the war is a disgrace. Can we now say we are not a neutral country? We are complicit in murder and should be striving for peace negotiations if we learn nothing from our own war. Well, we're not politically a neutral a country. That's a fallacy, really. Really dismayed to hear Nicholas parroting the tropes that undocumented people are coming into the country. I mean, there are a concern that some of them are undocumented. The majority are. Everyone is, the name is logged, their ID checked, they're fingerprinted, and there is a level of vetting that goes on. But, I mean, clearly there are some that are coming in that don't have their documents with them. I presume that small group is who you're talking of, Nicholas.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Okay. How do you vet refugees, their homeland at war or where they've been persecuted from, and do not want them to know where they are, as their relatives may be further punished? Never mind their administration systems that are probably at a lower level than here, and the corruption of services and counterfeiting, re-health service and other service. Our government, we repeatedly elect with the ruling permanent government of civil servants, are to blame for lack of planning and project management, not the asylum seekers, refugees and victims of war. I just think it'd be really helpful if someone from government or whomever's responsible outlines clearly what level of vetting is being done and how that is all being dealt with. Right, okay. It's back in the news again this morning. I'm not stoked about it, to be honest with you. Back in the front pages today. Enoch Burke back at school. If he doesn't, vacate the court order, he's going to face fines of €700 per day. I don't think he'll have any problem paying that, because I imagine there'll be some sort of a fund set up to support him in that regard. I think at this point it may be a case that those who maybe agreed with Enoch Burke, with him continuing to turn up the school, maybe their support is wavering. I don't know. Maria, what's your take on this?
Oh, I have a lot of take on this. I have a huge amount of sympathy for the staff and students and school community at the school, at Wilson Hospital School. And, I don't know what his point is at this point. I don't know what it is he thinks he is going to achieve. The man is more than entitled to his opinion. He is more than entitled to his religious belief. But those opinions and beliefs are not fact or are not truth for everybody. And I think when you start to mix up the idea of rebelling against things and you mix that up with the idea of imposing your opinions on people, that's where we've got to this situation, because he seems to think that he's standing up for some greater good. He seems to think that he is going to change the world.
But he does seem to. Only words I've heard from him is him referencing his own personal beliefs. Like, I don't see him. I haven't heard him make wider comments about a pushback against transgenderism as such. Like, in fairness to him, I have only heard him talk of his own personal beliefs,
and he's more than entitled to those beliefs. But when his beliefs have turned into a media circus, which is in fact impacting Leaving Cert, Junior Cert students and a staff going into their work every day, the principals, the board of management, all these people have suddenly become, their names have been fired about in the media for doing their jobs. I'm sorry, I'm a teacher, guys, and I have massive issues with the fact that when you have been dismissed from your job, you do not continue to turn up at your workplace. It doesn't matter what you teach or what you work in. So there are ways and means to stand up for yourself. And again, as I say, I don't agree with his opinions, but I don't have to agree with his opinions. They are his opinions. Mm-hmm. I have my opinions. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but my opinion is not your truth. And for me to continuously impose my right to have an opinion about something by impacting so many people, that's not right.
But in a way, too, his opinion, he could maintain his opinion, but still respect the rights of the student in 100%. Question. I mean, he wasn't being invited to live with them or to.
I think it's gone past.
It was how they referenced him. But I mean, as I say, there are competing rights here. There are other people's rights at play here, presumably, Maria.
The other thing, Greg, it's gone past the student in particular. I mean, my sympathies go to that child. It's gone past that. As a teacher, when you sign a contract to work in a school, you say that you agree that you're going to uphold the ethos of that building and of that community and of that school. It's part of your job. So no one's asking you to agree with absolutely everything that is said. As a teacher, I have dealt with things over the last 21 years that I don't understand fully. I've seen shifts in young people, and young people are phenomenal. And I will, till the day I die, I will say that young people are brilliant. And we could learn so much from them, and we can learn so much. And it's a privilege to get to work with young people and to see the progression and the innovation that comes from them. Society in 20 years' time is going to be dealt with and run by the young people who are in our schools at the minute. And it's interesting that we brought up the idea of young people going into politics this morning. They're brilliant and we should listen to them. That does not mean that everything they say is right, because obviously there's a fine line between being very passionate about a cause and having the common sense and experience to know that the world is a different place. But there is absolutely professionalism here that has to be questioned as well. If you are a teacher, you are an educator, your job and your only job apart from to teach the subject is to provide a safe environment for children.
Okay.
And that's it.
John McAteer, I'm not really quite sure what point Mr. Burke is making at this point. And I think that was kind of referenced in the court ruling. I also do believe that there is, I don't know how large it is, but there's a considerable amount of people out there who may not be speaking publicly that would have sympathies, at least to his point of view. What's your take on it all, John?
Maria made 2 points there about an educator and about really a public servant. The day that you sign up to become a public servant, it's not a big onerous task. Educating children is what you're trained to do. The upset to that school, to the whole ethos of the school, the pupils, the teachers, and the publicity that is attracted. He has lost his case. You can't be allowed to drag a horse and cart through the whole regulations of education. Enoch Burke is at a point now where he's going to be fined €700 a day. It's going to go beyond that. He's back in court, I think, on the 14th of February. That $700 a day will be a big deterrent if it's doubled and if it's trebled. He probably will end back in prison again. He may well become a prisoner of his own conscience, which is not something you want people to do. But like at the end of the day, the work in the schools and the education of the children, he's in breach of all that. He's in breach of High Court order and turning up at the school. And it's just a very, very sad situation.
Are the media taking a hand at this stage in constantly turning up with their cameras and photographers? Because, you know,
I would have to say so.
Because, I mean, we also need to know at this point, like, you know, where is he at? You know, I'm not saying there's any issues there with him, but I just think to some extent the media are turning up to see what he does next. And if you listen to the tone of the conversation, they're kind of taking a hand a bit in some of their private remarks, not necessarily the published. But Go ahead, John.
The Burkes are a very focused family. They have a one-dimensional way of looking at things. You can't argue with that. We're living in a democracy. But the greater order is that you cannot continually disobey the orders of the public service that has been good enough to give you a job. The school and the teaching in the children's days has to go on. Teachers have to be there, and they need an atmosphere that doesn't have the media and doesn't have somebody like it's going to be like it is the talk of the school, it's the talk of the country. And as I say, there's too many pictures of them on the front pages of the red tops. I don't know where the end of this is going to be. They don't want to put him back in prison because he's going to stay there until he's removed. He has already been released from prison, despite the fact that he didn't purge his contempt, but they felt that he had served enough time in jail to have effectively done so. He's not going to purge his contempt, and he has the backing of his own family and probably a small cohort of other people around him. And they'll need to step back and think to themselves, whose good are we serving here? Is it our own personal good, or is it those of whom we're supposed to serve? And like we're trained for our profession, and he's probably a very good teacher.
Right.
But sadly, that's where it now is.
To do that trade either here or anywhere, actually, with his convictions. Last brief word to you, Nicholas, if you don't mind.
I think, obviously, he's a man of principles. He believes in his Christian beliefs, and he's entitled to those. But when he turns a spotlight back onto his profession, onto the school, and onto the pupils of that school, I think that's where it falls down on him. I'm sure there are that people now will be well known certainly throughout the land. Does he want that to happen to him? Are there other children in the same position, or maybe find it difficult going through teenage years? And I think it's very, very unfair of what he's doing. But she's a teacher. She goes in there, tried to do her job. We're not saying he's a bad teacher. We're not saying any we don't know. But all we're saying is what he's doing is certainly detrimental with the school and the pupils.
Nicholas Crossan, Councillor, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Greg.
Take care of yourself. John McAteer, great to have you on the show as always. Look after yourself. Bye-bye. And last but not least, Maria Rush, thank you for your time. Have a lovely day and great weekend too. Okay?
You too, Greg.
Thank you so very much indeed.
The 9 to Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota. Test drive Ireland's best-selling hybrid electric range at our showroom, Port Road, Letterkenny.
The TUI Live Happy sale is here, with savings of up to €250 per booking. Free child places, even in the school summer holidays. Plus low booking deposits from €50 per person. With holidays to suit all budgets. Relax and get booking. TUI Live Happy. Offer T's and C's apply.
Glenswilly GAA present a 25-car drive in the Clubhouse this Friday night, the 27th of January, starting at 7, with €1,500 in prizes. This ad is kindly sponsored by Boyle Construction.
Why don't we do this more often? Hiking? Yeah. Well, we get really into it for about 2 weeks every year, and then we just kind of stop. Sure, I even bought these poles last year.
Resolutions may only last until mid-January, but Dunstore's Double Savers are all year round. Enjoy everyday low prices on thousands of items. Then save again at the till with our 10 off 50 and 5 off 25 grocery vouchers. Shrink your bill with Double Savers. Dunstores, always better value. Terms and conditions apply. Voucher can be used to next qualifying grocery shop.
Banish those January blues and get ready for the big one. The sensational Joe Dolan Show, Remembering Joe, starring 5 vocalists and featuring the Dolan family. Coming to the Inishowen Gateway Hotel, Buncrana on Friday, February 10th. Tickets on sale at hotel or book online, showtours.ie. Make a ticket the ideal Valentine's gift.
The National Football League gets underway for Donegal under the new manager Paddy Carr this Sunday. The All-Ireland champions Kerry will be the visitors to Ballybuffet. Join Oisin Kelly and Martin McHugh for full live match commentary on Highland, across the Northwest and online at highlandradio.com from 1:45 at McCool Park. Live coverage of Donegal in the National Football League is brought to you by Highland Motors in Letterkenny, with the all-new award-winning Dacia Jogger 7-seater, overall winner at the 2022 AA Ireland Car Awards, available for immediate delivery.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Lanzarote, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
It'll remain dry throughout most of the day, although cloud will gradually build from the northwest with some outbreaks of rain pushing through later in the evening. Stay tuned. We're back with more after the news and obituary notices.
The 9 to Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, Port Road, Letterkenny. Home to a wide range of Toyota commercial vehicles. Your perfect business partner.
Live is a different experience with every performance at over 60 Arts Council funded venues across Ireland. Experience live performance in your area. Book that ticket today.
#LiveIs, funded by the Arts Council.
A new year, a new floor. At Floored, we offer quality solid, semi-solid and laminate click vinyl wood flooring, together with a vast choice of parquet herringbone flooring, all fitted and tailored to your needs. Call in today and see for yourself the fantastic offers available this January. Call Floored today on 087 161 7008 or visit floored.ie.
McDade's Bathroom, Plumbing and Tiles, serving the Northwest for over 40 years. Explore our showroom with more than 40 displays. Choose from an array of shower doors, shower trays, baths and bathroom accessories. Speak with an expert about tile selection and wall paneling. We also stock an array of plumbing, heating and stove spare parts, as well as a great selection of kitchen mixers and radiators at our trade counter. Our stove department is also available for you to choose a style that suits your needs and complements your home. McDade's Bathroom, Plumbing, Tiles, Buncrana. We're here for you.
Bluebird Care are looking for you. Bluebird Care are currently seeking carers and nurses to join their ever-expanding team. Immediate starts for carers in all parts of the county, especially Letterkenny, Inishowen and Donegal Town. Bluebird Care are also looking for registered general nurses for day and nighttime 12-hour shifts. Contact Bluebird Care on 074 912 9562 or bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
Stop Highland Radio are going to Scotland from Monday the 1st of May to Thursday the 4th of May with the very best of music, and we would love for you to join us. Staying at the 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel in Glasgow, we are bringing with us some of the biggest country stars, including myself, David James, Declan Ernie and Robert Mazzell, to name a few. You will enjoy luxury travel to Glasgow, 3 nights dinner, bed and breakfast with music and entertainment each evening. Join us on the Highland Fling to Glasgow this May for only €575 per person. To book, call Highland Radio today on 074 91 25,000. Early booking is advisable. Single supplement applies.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. The HSE has confirmed the Nodoc service has received notice to vacate its existing Letterkenny base at Old Town. They're now looking at moving the out-of-hours GP service to a site opposite Letterkenny University Hospital. They're also echoing assurances given by Nodoc's clinical lead on yesterday's 9 till noon show that the relocation isn't linked to a wider review of out-of-hours GP provision in Donegal. With more, here's Donna Marie Doherty.
The HSE has now confirmed what's been widely reported this week. Letterkenny's Nodoc base is to move. Local HSE officials are now examining the possibility of moving out of our GP service to the Errigal Chronic Disease Management Hub on Kilmacrennan Road, where what it refers to as timely renovation works are taking place. Phase 2 of relocation process will see nurse triage and administrative elements of the service in Letterkenny incorporated with other HSE services. The HSE is pledging to keep staff updated and is stressing that this is a separate and distinct process to the ongoing review, which could see the Nodoc service taken over by CareDoc.
Enoch Burke has again turned up at Wilson's Hospital School in County Westmeath, despite the prospect of facing a large fine. If the former teacher stays outside the premises past 2 o'clock today, he'll have to pay €700. Eva Kearns reports.
Enoch Burke drove into Wilson's Hospital School at around 8:44am this morning in a Jeep driven by his father. The vehicle slowed down upon entry and Mr Burke was asked whether he'd be going to court today, however failed to respond to reporters' questions. Yesterday the court decided to impose a daily fine on Mr Burke if he fails to purge his contempt to stay away from the Westmeath school. It means if he stays outside the school past 2pm today, he'll be fined €700 and will also be issued a fine for every day that passes until he decides to comply with the court order. Mr Burke was dismissed from his teaching role at the school last week.
Locals on Arranmore Island have been calling for safety barriers to be put in place on a newly constructed road heading toward the lighthouse that runs along the cliff edge. Councillor Micheál Cullumaglaspach says he fully supports this and hopes the concerns of the residents will be heard. The councillor noted there can be a lot of red tape in matters such as this, but said he hopes it won't take too long, as this could be a matter of saving lives.
One of the things that have been raised with me on the island, I'm a regular Steve in Arranmore, is that there are concerns about how close the road is to the cliffs, Gallamaka, Jean Chahatalis, out to the Lighthouse Road. You're talking something at the nearest point about 10 yards or less, and if there was an accident, you're talking about somebody going off the side of the cliff there. So
a woman in her 70s has died after a fire at a property in Fermanagh. It broke out at around 5 to 6 last evening in the Killinure Crescent area of Enniskillen. The Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Services extinguished the blaze, but the woman was pronounced dead at the scene. The PSNI say investigations are continuing. And a South Donegal deputy has raised concerns over accommodation for Ukrainian refugees with the Integration Minister. Deputy Marian Harkin told Minister Roderick O'Gorman that one person fears they can no longer afford to house refugees as they're awaiting payment from the government of over €400,000. She says there is also an issue with people who are offering to provide accommodation, but they're just being passed from one agency to another.
One constituent gave a house to a Ukrainian family before there was any money involved. That family subsequently returned to Ukraine, and since the end of last September, that family have been trying to get another Ukrainian family into their house, but they're being bounced from one agency to another, local authority, Red Cross, IOM, and generous, decent people are beginning to lose patience.
Weather forecast, any frost and fog will clear this morning. Some brighter sunny spells developing. It'll stay dry for most of the day, but cloud will build up from the northwest into the evening with some outbreaks of rain later on. Another cool day with highest temperatures 6 to 8 degrees Celsius in light southwesterly or variable breezes. Outbreaks of rain will move across the region overnight, fizzling out but staying quite damp and misty in places. Some fog patches as well. Toward morning, lowest overnight temperatures 3 to 6 in mostly light southwest winds. Tomorrow, Saturday, mostly dry with brighter sunny spells. Top temperatures 7 to 9 with light southwest breezes veering northwesterly. And that's Highland Radio News. Back with news again at 11 o'clock. Good morning.
The obituary notices for this Friday morning, January 27th. The death has taken place of Fonzie Hannigan, Kellyverry, Newton Cunningham. Fonzie's remains will repose at his late residence from 12 noon today. Funeral from there tomorrow for Requiem Mass in All Saints Church, Newton Cunningham at 1 p.m, followed by interment at the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. Family flowers only please. Donations if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Lily McDade Rowe, ní Kearney, Ballymegan, Buncrana. Funeral on Monday morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Cockhill, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has taken place in Manchester of Hugo Quirk, formerly of Uris and Dunree, and more recently Bury, Manchester. Funeral to be held in Manchester on a date to be confirmed. The death has occurred of Kevin Fallon, Manor Cunningham, and formerly of Giva, County Sligo, reposing in Shivnan's funeral home, Ballyfernin, Roscommon, this evening from 6 o'clock until 8 o'clock. Removal to St Joseph's Church, Giva, tomorrow morning, arriving for the celebration of Mass and Christian's burial at 11 o'clock, interment afterwards in Currig Cemetery. The death has occurred of Brendan O'Donnell, Lucan, Glenageary, Dublin, and formerly of Manor Cunningham. In accordance with Brendan's wishes, his body has been donated to medical science and therefore there will not be a funeral. An occasion to celebrate Brendan's life will be held in the Fitzpatrick Castle Hotel, Killinay, Dublin at 2 o'clock tomorrow. If desired, donations can be made to the Irish Motor Neuron Disease Association. The death has taken place of Anna Friel, ní Dunleavy, Mountain View, Letterkenny and Drogheda. Her remains are reposing at her home at Mountain View in Letterkenny. Removal from there tomorrow morning for 11 a.m. Requiem Mass at St Mary's Church, Fanavolte, Fanad, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Rosary nightly at 8 p.m. with family time please from 10 p.m. Family flowers only please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, care of any family member or Eamon Scott Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Charlie McGlynn, the Reelan Bar, Garvin, Clohan. His remains are reposing at his home. Requiem Mass tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. in Our Lady of Perpetual Succour, Glenfin, with interment afterwards in Kilwarra Cemetery, Glenfin. Rosary tonight at 9 p.m. with family time from 10 p.m. tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Marley Funeral Directors. Requiem Mass can be viewed on mcnmedia.tv. The death has taken place of Susan Elizabeth, known as Betty Graham, Arda, St Johnston. Funeral from her late residence this afternoon at 1:15 p.m. for 2 p.m. funeral service in St Johnston Presbyterian Church, with burial afterwards in the family plot in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only. Donations if desired to St Johnston Presbyterian Church, care of James Fleming or Terence McClintock Funeral Director. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Good morning again. You're welcome back to the 9 till noon show.
VHI 360 Health Centre Carrickmines gives our healthcare members access to 5 floors of clinical expertise, including urgent care, paediatrics and state-of-the-art diagnostics, all under one roof. Visit vhi.ie. VHI Healthcare DAC, trading as VHI Healthcare, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
My apologies, just so keen to say good morning again. Or welcome along to the show if you've just tuned in. Thanks again to Councillor Nicholas Crossan, Maria Rush and John McAteer for their contributions over the course of the last hour. Let's get to some of your comments coming in via text, WhatsApp and your phone calls as well. What a scandal, the Quilcha Forestry deal. Is the Irish government, and in particular the Agriculture Minister, selling off huge amounts of Irish land to British investment funds? Only one who will benefit is the British investors. Not good for local communities and not good for the environment. But the government is saying that it represents only 1% of land to be afforested, or whatever that turn of phrase is, and that it's not going to happen again. We shall see. Ask Maria, would she call a boy a they, or not a they, would she call a boy they on demand? And what gender does she think that the boy's parents enrolled him in within the school the first day? Also, does she think that they, in this case, is appropriate grammar? Why should that man have to call someone they or them? The words they and them are plural and the individual involved is singular. But I mean, we call each other by given names all of the time. I'm not getting into the whys, but I don't see what difference it really makes, to be honest with you, in terms of, as I say, I'll call people whatever they say their name is that I've never met before. But like as I say, that's not talking as to why someone then might go from being called a boy to a they, not to a they, from a he to they. Is the correct way to put it. Hi, Greg. Did we see the Burke family on television re another court case in the past? Well, we've spoken to them in the past on a number of occasions. The right to homeschool was one of them, I believe. We spoke to Enoch's mother and either Enoch or his brother. And also we've spoken to her generally about homeschooling. And I think also a third time in relation to predictive grades, if they were... there was a case surrounding predictive grades. That's not that long ago, actually. So, yes, they have been in the press a couple of times. Caller says, democracy, a way of governing which depends on the will of the people. Clearly, this is no longer existent in this country. We are dictated to. But the part of democracy is you say you elect people, and this is not a counter argument to say you're wrong, but what democracy is that you, every 5 years, you elect people and give them a mandate to make these decisions. You don't elect them with a view to them consulting you with every decision they make. So that it is democracy, but maybe not democracy in the form that that people might like. They is nonsensical, and this rule is that. And this rule is that I respect any person to be trans or whatever they wish to be or are, but to force me to address them as something that is nonsensical is oppressive. I'm not sure you're forced to, but I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, it's oppressive. Used to refer to two or more people or things previously mentioned or easily offended. The two men could get life sentences if they are convicted. Please ask your commentators how and where they have used the term they. But you will find a lot of, if you have teenage children or your nephews and nieces who are teenage children, you will find that they routinely in their school will refer to someone as they. You know, so, I mean, maybe for the older generations, like myself, for example, it could be a struggle to get your head around. But if you speak to teenagers, as I say, it's routine to them. Let me know if that's different with the teenagers around you. A caller says, I've always got a medical card, no issue. This year my renewal isn't due until March, but I got a letter from the HSC and now I'm only getting it for a year. Is this normal? Have they changed the rules? Well, medical cards only being issued for a year now. Another caller says, never judge a country by its politicians. After all, the Irish people are all honest by nature. Another, I've been on to my county councillor this 2 or 3 years about my road. It's in a mess. He said no money for it, but now there's plenty of money. When he comes looking for a vote, there will be no vote, says a listener. I'm a Letterkenny man of 60 years of age and have a health condition who's been on the council scheme for the last 20 years and have been renting since now. My house that I lived in the last 15 years is being put up for sale and I don't know what I'm going to do. Ireland giving houses to people coming into the country. How about looking after their own first? Is your house being sold to be given to refugees? I wonder. But that stability that you've had for 15 years to be taken from you now, I mean, 60 is still young, but... not something you want to be contending with at the same time as having a health condition. So I really do hope you get a resolution there. Garda vetting takes how long for a volunteer or person working with vulnerable people? A week? Weeks, mostly months. Plus, this idiotic system has to be repeated for any organisation that you volunteer or work for. In addition, it does not vet people working with vulnerable people who are in trauma of, say, emotional abuse, who are not old or young. It is ridiculous, believes the listener. Just on the topic of the war in Ukraine, I personally think that any country that America got involved in and pretended they were helping out ended up totally destroyed and has still to recover. Another, Ireland's position in this war is a disgrace. We are not neutral. Another one on this issue, Ireland made a very big show of being selected as the chair of the UN Security Council, but that was all for show and nothing else. When it came to Ukraine, with Ireland holding this very important chairship, Ireland could have stepped in and attempted to stop the Ukraine war by using its neutral country status to bring some sense to the table. But instead, Ireland sat on its thumbs and did what it was told by those who wanted another war so as to make tens of billions in profit for their war machines. That is called moral bankruptcy. But let us consider, and maybe someone might make the counter argument that the NATO was pushing Russia into doing something, but it was Russia who decided to invade Ukraine. If Russia had taken over Ukraine, what would happen next? I wonder. Would he go for other countries that he clearly wants to rebuild the USSR? So what would be next? Where would he go next if he could just walk through Ukraine? Is that something that you would consider? Like, if the West didn't back Ukraine in this, what would happen next? Let's not forget that also Vladimir Putin, part of the reason he took this action is because he claimed that the UN was moving the NATO border, NATO was moving its border closer to Russia. But in effect, what he's done, if he's successful in Ukraine, is he's advanced the Russian border closer to NATO. So there's it's not a lot of logic there, whichever way you look at it. But have you any concern as to what would have happened if he were allowed to move through Ukraine, and then what might have happened next?
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday, the 27th of January. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S20. It's game number 4. The numbers are 84, 31, 83, 27, 9, 2, 44, 66, 13, and finally 71. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Hi, Jean Kern here to let you know that our first Highland Radio Book Club choice for 2023 is John Boyne's latest novel for adults, All the Broken Places, the long-awaited sequel to the global bestseller The Boy in Striped Pyjamas. In 1946, a mother and daughter flee Poland for Paris, shame and fear at their heels. Nearly 80 years later, the daughter Gretel lives a life that is a far cry from her traumatic childhood. When a couple move into the flat below her in London, the appearance of their 9-year-old son Henry brings back memories she would rather forget. Faced with a choice between her own safety and his, Gretel is taken back to a similar crossroads in her childhood. Back then, her complicity dishonoured her life, but to interfere now could risk revealing the secrets she has spent a lifetime protecting. We will be reviewing the book on my show on Sunday the 5th of February, and as usual, if you'd like to take part in any of our reviews, email me jeancurran@highlandradio.com.
The 9 to noon show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, home of genuine Toyota parts and accessories at Port Road, Letterkenny.
Okay, many students across the country have started sitting their mock exams in recent days, and others will in the near future. And of course, this brings into focus again stress and anxiety young people are experiencing around the Leaving Cert. And there are calls that that issue needs to be seriously considered when formulating a better senior cycle system. And that's one of the talking points at a national conference of ETB schools taking place here in the Northwest in Sligo. Principal of Finn Valley College in Donegal, Alan Thompson, joins us now. Good morning to you.
Morning, Greg.
Right, okay, so I mean, what can be done? How can things be changed to lessen the stress and anxiety on young people, I wonder?
Yeah, well, I suppose that's a very good question. We're at the beginning of this reform process, and that's really what needs to be worked out. I suppose what I would say is that, we have this term now, well-being, and it is a bit of a buzzword in education, but it needs to be much more than a buzzword. If we want to provide for well-being at senior cycle as well as junior cycle, then we also need to make sure that's incorporated into the actual assessment itself when the time comes. If you think at the moment, the Leaving Certificate tends to be an all or nothing examination where everything rests on a final terminal exam. We need to find some way of taking some of that stress and anxiety out of the exams for the students.
Do we know, that's okay. Do we know who it does and doesn't suit, though? Like, have we done an audit of students to find out if this current system that we employ, if it benefits, how many of them it benefits versus how many struggle with it? I presume we have, because if we're talking about change, we'd really need to know where we're at first.
Yeah, I agree with you, Greg, and I think that's exactly what does need to happen. Those figures haven't really been made aware or made available to schools, school leaders, to the general public, indeed. I suppose some of that is quite difficult to quantify. The results themselves in some way may do that on a year-by-year basis. And the bell curve that they talk about, obviously you will have a lot of grouping in the middle, but there are many students that it doesn't suit. And therefore, it needs to accommodate all types of learning and all learner styles.
I think it would suit everyone if everything wasn't geared up to 1 or 2 weeks of pure intense pressure. And you could say the same for driving tests as well. I don't think really it's a great model in a few different areas. It's just a case, I suppose, as how that is done without in any way diminishing outcomes.
Absolutely. And, while we talk about senior cycle reform, we need to remember that there were a lot of positives with the old Leaving Cert. It was a very, very fair system. It was internationally recognized. It was always seen as a great equalizer. And it was something that, that had a very, very high standard and that people respected. We want to bring that forward. We want to make sure that there is those positives in the new assessment system and that the certification means something. So it is difficult to actually do that. And that's why I think there needs to be significant consultation. There's a huge level of expertise out there, and it's about accessing that expertise and having meaningful consultation with all of the stakeholders. We don't want any tokenism or lip service to this idea of consultation. This is high stakes. This is one of the most significant, if not the most significant, changes in education since the foundation of the state, and we need to get this right. And the best way to do that is to have really deep, meaningful consultation with all of the partners.
I mean, we're talking about stress and anxiety for students in school through the exams. Of course, President Higgins has triggered a conversation about stress and anxiety amongst students at home doing their homework. I mean, no one said life was going to be easy. Are we losing the run of ourselves a little bit in terms of, we have to make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater either here?
You're absolutely correct there. What I would say is that, the Leaving Cert and indeed homework are stressors for students. That's no doubt the case. I suppose we've always had both of those things, but students' lives now are much, much more complex than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. We're now living in an internet age. We're living at a time where students are on social media, where they're much more socially aware, where they have huge pressures in their lives that maybe weren't here in the past. And in trying to address those and support students, one of the measures is trying to take the stress out of the examinations and out of senior cycle.
And no real moves, it seems, to, I mean, obviously people access, Google Class or whatever on a laptop or this, but we've done nothing really to sort of say, right, this is a reality. Nothing's going to change now. I think social media in various forms is going to be part of our lives forever. Has anything ever been done to see how that can be integrated into education, that it's not necessarily seen as a distraction to it, so we have to change education and leave that there in and of itself, do we not need to be thinking beyond sort of outside the box and saying, right, if this is how people live their lives now, a mixture of digital and analog, so to speak, well, then maybe we need to structure education that is in that space as well, the digital space as well, in a more meaningful way.
Absolutely. And again, that's one of the reasons why we do need change and reform at senior cycle. It is a driver for change. The Leaving Certificate hails back to a time really before ICT and before the internet. And technology now is a part of the lives of young people. They have a lot of the content, if not all the content, at their fingertips. It's about developing skills. It's about developing those aptitudes, those new processes, I suppose, for taking their place in society. And part of that is the digital side of things. I think with COVID and lockdown, I think there have been huge leap forwards. Almost every child now knows how to use Google Classroom or the Microsoft version of that Microsoft platform. So there have definitely been leaps forwards.
But we also learned in that process too, though, that the traditional way of teaching, when you remove that, it can cause problems as well. So, we learned some positives in that, but I suppose we also maybe learned a little bit about what we might need to avoid going forward.
Absolutely. I think there's always going to be a place and a need for face-to-face teaching, for example. I don't think that it can go online. I don't think that's a substitute for teachers and students being in the classroom and the rich sort of conversations that can take place there. But I do think that there is a place for technology, and that has to be factored into this. And it's about equipping students with the skills, the research skills, the evaluative skills that they need for accessing that knowledge and putting it to good use.
What would you like to see? I know there's a lot of consultation has to go on, and indeed maybe even to form a proper opinion, we'd need some of the stats that we've talked of in terms of, how many of the student population does the current system work for versus not. But do you have an idea of what you think might work better for students and teachers as well, who have a very important role in all of this?
Yeah, well, that's it's a very complex question with an even more complex answer. There are huge issues to resolve there, and that's why I said, there is a massive amount of expertise, and even just at the conference yesterday, the different ideas that are coming forward there from just a very small group and in a very, very small amount of time was fascinating and was very telling. And if we had a more engaged process there, with those sort of fora where we have meaningful conversations, and it's not just a document sent out or a survey that's sent out, where we can actually work through the issues. Simple questions: should we have a 2 or 3 year senior cycle? Should transition year become compulsory or should it remain optional? Should transition year be reformed in some way that it is more of a lead-in to a Leaving Cert? How many subjects should students be studying at Leaving Cert? We have quite a number in this country. Many countries have much less than that. Should that be done? There's definitely a need for well-being at senior cycle. While SPHE is taught at senior cycle in every school, there's probably a recognition now that we need more well-being.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of that we have to be really careful in that, I think if we say something like transition year, and I know that was part of a whole paragraph, as you're saying, but, in terms of educational development, there's an awful lot of emotional development goes on in transition year, I think for quite a lot of students. So, when we are talking about how they deal with things, which is what stress and anxiety really is, we have to make sure that we don't, in the process of trying to make things easier, take away for a lot of them one of the things that can work quite well. But I know what you're saying is we need to look at it and examine it, not change it, which I think is really valid. But I just hope that students are heavily consulted in all of this as well, and not just current students, but even a cohort from 21 and 26, and let's find out how things changed over the course of a couple of schooling years.
Absolutely, Greg. I agree with you. We talk about student voice, and if ever there was a need for it, it's now. And again, that has to be done in a meaningful way. This impacts directly on young people's lives, and therefore they have to be part of it. And just to say as well, Greg, it's not about trying to make the Leaving Cert easier or transition year easier. It's about trying to support students in realising their full potential. So it's taking the stress out of these things rather than actually looking to, dumb down the Leaving Cert or make it any easier. We still want our students to be as well prepared as possible for their place in society. And the Irish education system has a fantastic international reputation. We don't want that diminished in any way, but it's just to make sure that those students are allowed to flourish and are allowed to succeed, and that everybody is carried forward and nobody's left behind.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. Thank you very much for your time, Alan. I really appreciate it. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. That's
Principal of the Finn Valley College in Donegal, Alan Thompson, says the new curriculum, which is being rolled out from 2024, needs to lessen students' anxieties. Again, as I say, we're talking about the homework and the stress and strain of that, and we're talking about school and how exams are done and the stress and strain of that. I just do hope that, obviously, whilst we do need change, that we make sure that we are also preparing our teenagers for life, which is very, very tough. Life is really, really tough, and it comes at you hard very, very quickly, be it in third level or if you just go straight into the workforce or into other areas of training or whatever you choose to do when you leave school. It comes at you tough. It really does. And very quickly, you're not a child anymore, and you've got all the real world responsibilities. And I hope that we don't, in all of this, in some way lessen our young people's preparations for that reality. It's good fun too, by the way, in case any young ones are listening, but it's not easy.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota. With over 45 years of experience, trust us to help you on your electric journey.
I hear you some wiring needs a fixing, ma'am. The name's Buzz, on account of my work.
No chance.
Not all cowboys ride horses. All safe electric registered electrical contractors must give you a certificate of completion that shows their work meets approved standards. Find one nearby on safeelectric.ie.
We can all see how conflict affects energy supply and prices. More than ever, we need to be mindful of how we use energy. By reducing your use, you can save money and lessen the impact. Here's how. Only heat your home to the temperature you need. Use appliances efficiently. And where possible, outside the peak hours of 4 to 7 p.m. Consider walking, cycling, or public transport for short journeys. Drive at lower speeds where safe to do so. Government advice and supports are available for homes and businesses to help you meet this challenge. Find out more at gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
If you don't like waiting, then the new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV is the car for you. That's because the C5 Aircross is available now, so you really won't have to wait at all. And ironically, with its advanced comfort technology, best-in-class boot space, amazing finance offers and 5-year warranty, it would definitely be worth waiting for, if you had to wait. Which you don't.
The new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV is in stock now at Highland Motors, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
The 9 till Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, Port Road, Letterkenny. Stockists of a wide range of used passenger and commercial vehicles.
Urgent news. The Houseproud Group stock disposal sale at the Strabane store must end this Sunday. All remaining clearance stock has been transferred to the store and final price cuts made, with drastic reductions on furniture for every room. The massive stock disposal sale at Houseproud, Abercorn Square, Strabane. Sale ends 6 p.m. Sunday. Also at the Oma store.
Don Meats set to buy Kildare Chilling. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
We look at what the deal means for sheep and beef farmers. Albeit to ratchet up farm audits for all farmers. We reveal factory prices vary by over €300 for the same animal. Sheep farmers squeezed as costs rise and prices fall. We have the latest on the controversial Quilcha forestry deal. And could virtual fences be a game changer for farmers?
Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
At ESB Networks, we're connecting Ireland to a clean electric future. And as part of the National Smart Metering Programme, we're now installing smart electricity meters in your area. Your new smart meter will reduce the need for estimated bills, help you to manage your electricity usage more efficiently, and enable you to access smart electricity products and services. We'll contact you before your meter is installed. Find out more at esbnetworks.ie/smartmeter.
Market leader Avonmore Milk are looking for a milk agent to service established shops and their door-to-door customer base in the Letterkenny and Ramelton areas. There's good earning potential with strong growth prospects and an attractive start-up financial package. To apply for this exciting role, forward your CV to pburns@glanbia.ie. That's PBYRNES@glanbia.ie or call 087 2533 054.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Salah, Ninnis, the Beatles. You can now fly to Liverpool 8 times a week with Ryanair this summer. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Okay, let's have a look at the weather forecast at 4 today. If I can get it up here, I'll bring it to you in a second. I'll have it here for you. A frost and fog clear. That's literally on the radio, Sean. We have a number of guests in here. There they are, look, chatting away. So not a care in the world. It'll remain dry throughout most of today, although clouding will gradually build from the northwest with some outbreaks of rain pushing in later in the evening. Another rather cool day, temperature 6 to 8 degrees. And in fairness to Sean, you were trying to help me out there, Sean, weren't you? You had the shushing going.
Yeah, we've
apologies.
We've two guys are very excited to be here today.
Yeah, and for good reason too, because this is the Highland Radio iMotors Community Hero, and it's kind of a unique sort of a thing. Who wants to tell us a bit more about it?
Silence now.
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay, we'll go over to Michael. Come on.
How are we doing? I suppose, like for us, it's important to recognise people that are, I suppose, unsung heroes, community heroes, people who volunteer their time to mental health services, to volunteering with sports, helping the elderly. So what we want to do is we wanted to put together something that we could, I suppose, first of all, give them a platform and recognise the good work that some people are doing, and then have a prize involved also, which is the use of a brand new Nissan Qashqai for 12 months. So an unregistered car that'll be registered next month for the lucky winner.
All right. Seamus, not hard to get behind something like this. It's a great idea, actually.
Great idea. Yeah, it's good. All about community, and like there's so many people out there that aren't recognised, like for the work they do. It could be in GA clubs or tidy towns. I see 11 Newton. Somebody's out picking up litter in the morning. Like there's people out there under the radar, and we want to recognise them people. You know,
yeah, and the thing about it too is you've given some great examples, but really it's up to the listeners really to who they believe is worthy. Michael, you're inviting all applications.
100%, because look, I could sit here and read out a list for the next 10 minutes, but we're still going to miss some people out there that aren't being recognised. There's so many people doing so many different things. You wouldn't even think of half of them. You know.
Yeah, a no-brainer, of course. Sean Quinn, for Highland to get involved in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael spoke to me, I think it was actually last November, wasn't it? Where the idea of it would be good to do something different and big for 2023. So we had a discussion about it, and we came up with the idea of somebody within the community, that unsung hero who nobody really knows about. And it could be somebody that's actually working within the home. And what we loved is the opportunity where it just opens it to everybody. But it's such a great prize, because to be given a brand new car, to you're not lending it, you have it, it's yours, you're not handing it back on a Saturday, it's your car for 12 months. It's fair play to the guys in iMotors. We were delighted to come on board. Obviously we've worked well together over the years. I think this it fits for us as well, because we're all about the community, and I know that Seamus and the family have been in the community for a long, long time.
Yeah, we'd be I suppose from right through the late 60s in Malin. My dad's involved in tidy towns and community, and so it's even when we look in Letterkenny now, the community of people that we have working with us, there's people from all over Donegal.
And what we find too, Michael, is that often those that go above and beyond for someone close to them, for the community, for an organisation, most often put themselves last. It's they look after themselves, their well-being or their vehicle or their, you know what I mean. It's often they put behind everybody else. This is an opportunity for those who they benefit to put them front and centre in terms of a really cracking car for a year.
Yeah, there's people out there that's completely under the radar, and they're doing Trojan work. So it's to recognise them people, and people can will know that in their communities or in their family network. We all can think of people there now. As I'm sitting here thinking about it myself, there's people there that need to be recognised, and
Sean,
I'm looking forward to see what comes on.
Yeah, how do people enter, Sean?
So we made it very simple. They can do it via email or they can do it via post. So if they want to do it via email, it'll be to comments@highlandradio.com. Or if they're going to do it by post, it's to Highland Radio at Mountaintop Letterkenny. And all we're looking for is that we don't want a big 3-story or 3-page story. It's a brief synopsis of why this person deserves the prize. So we need to know who the person is and also who is nominating the person. And we're giving you a few weeks. I think it's about 3 weeks it's going to be open for. So.
And organisations too who have someone working within the organisation.
Absolutely.
Again, we're trying to give ideas here, but don't let it restrict in your mind who that person is. That person will come to your mind straight away, won't they, Michael? In other words, right, such and such a person, they're driving around in an old banger or whatever it might be, they'd really benefit from something like this. And it would be... It's a recognition of what they do as well, isn't it? That's and making their life a bit easier for a year.
100%. And look, if you have a full driving licence or you know somebody who's a full driving licence and you think should be entered, just enter them. There's no wrong answers here. Get somebody into us and we'll get them nominated. That's the first step.
And the person who receives this car would be responsible for fueling it and insuring it and taxing it. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But they get access to a brand new Nissan Qashqai, which is one of the most popular cars in the country, isn't it?
It is.
And it's a brand new car.
Brand new, unregistered, out of the box.
Out of the box, Don't fancy left out of the box.
I didn't realise. Maybe they do come in boxes, do they?
We have a lot of cardboard at the back of the garage.
We'll take you up to try to lift it out, Greg. How's that?
Is there one actually there? I'm thinking. Cars are that hard to get at the
Don't
moment.
ruin it, Seamus. There's one going to be there. Michael's that's why you pay him the big money. He's got this. He's got this sorted. Right. So again, Sean, because people might be picking up on this, I want to make sure people, and we'll remind them over the next while. Again, it's any individual or a group or someone that they believe is going above the call of duty, helps the community, is caring in the community, volunteers, works with any group of people, be it elderly, youth, whomever it might be. And I think too, if it can be demonstrated how they benefit too from having a good, reliable car under them, I think that would probably help too, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I'd be surprised if that wasn't part of it. There could be stories that that they're unable to go to the shops because the car's broken down. But listen, we're open to read and listen to anything that comes in, and this is a great opportunity. It's not something that happens every day of the week, and I'm excited by it. I think we'll get a massive response on this, but it's just so nice to be given back again to help somebody who needs that help.
And you enter by emailing comments@highlandradio.com, or if you want to write, you can post the nomination into Highland Radio, Mountaintop, Letterkenny. Michael, General Manager of iMotors, people have a couple of weeks, but you know what I mean, this is closing within a month as well, so people need to get their thinking hats on.
Definitely. Look, have a think about it this evening. Think of somebody that you know, because we all know somebody, and that is the biggest thing here. So have a think about it this evening, get your nominations in, and let's recognise that person within the community.
Yeah, all right. Seamus?
No. It's a great idea. It's great. It's good. It's going to be exciting now to see what's coming on. We're looking forward to see what's coming on. So,
the way you said it's a great idea, right, is the way Sean says something is a great idea when it was Fanula's idea.
I'll tell you what to do.
He recognises it's a good idea, but he's not going to go over the top either at the same time.
I'll contest that one in the ad break.
This is Crosby's baby here. No.
What is important to mention is the closing date. So it's the 22nd of February. And as I said, so if you want to do it by email, you can. By post, you can. And we will announce the winner on your show here on the 24th.
Brilliant, excellent, and we'll do, and it'd be great to find some way of recognising a short list as well of people or whatever, so we can work that out through, because what's going to happen here, and I wouldn't like to be judging this, is there's going to be 20 people and all equally deserving, because we have an amazing. We have an amazing level of community spirit, community helping, carers, people working in the community here like nowhere else. So it's going to be a big challenge, Michael, to come up with a winner. But, you know, part of that process too will be amazing to sort of be able to read the great things that an awful lot of people do in our county.
Definitely, and I think, you know, we're going to be shocked by what people are actually doing and the way they're volunteering their time and helping others. So that's that. Look, and again, I think it'll be very humbling for everybody listening to what people are doing, and I suppose it might inspire others to go out and help with organisations or volunteer their time.
And sorry about the boring stuff, because, you know, this is obviously this is a car that has to be driven on the open road as well. Is there a lower age limit, or I suppose it's from when anyone
full
can
license?
get
That's what we're saying.
As long as you have a full license and fully comprehensive insurance would be important as well.
Yeah.
All the details are actually are on our website as well. So if they go to highlandradio.com, all the information will be there.
Okay, well, listen, fair play to all involved in Highland Radio. I was going to say iMotors. I can't stop praises, no praise, isn't that what they say? Michael, how's things going up in Malin and Drumkeen?
Yeah, good. I suppose we're starting to get more deliveries of vehicles, which is great. So I suppose we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. So look, a lot of happy customers. A few customers still waiting for their car deliveries. But no, we're getting there. So good range of used vehicles in stock as well. So have a look on imotors.ie if you're interested in anything.
Yeah, and a lot of the it's outside of your control in terms of the supply chains, but things are improving in that regard, aren't
Slowly but surely, yeah.
Okay,
Slowly.
It's great to see such a demand still.
It is. It is the stuff
flip
that's
side,
coming.
be sitting there with 100 new cars wondering where the customers are going to come from.
No, and I've said nearly end of January, and I've told my customers you will not get your car in January.
Yeah.
They're still ringing, so if they'll hear me there now, the car's not on the next first quarter. I told them the first.
It's in the box. It's in the box somewhere.
So the stuff is coming, but it's just a bit slow.
We have to work on your PR. Although there's an honesty there that I appreciate as well at the same time.
Yeah.
All right, Michael Crosendike, thanks so much for calling in. And well done to all at iMotors for this brilliant idea. It's going to make a real difference to someone's life, I think. And as well as that, it's not only the use of the vehicle, a brand new vehicle for a year, it's the recognition of what they're doing. And it gives us an opportunity as a community to thank people. And well done as well, all jokes aside, Seamus, for getting in behind it from a company perspective, because you have to put the car up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And Sean, from our perspective, look, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just let's look forward to them all coming in, and the harder the decision, the better this will be. That's the way I see it. You know, it's
and just to recap again, we're looking for nominations for that person that you know, and as Seamus says quite rightly, I think as we're saying this, people are popping into our heads. That person that goes beyond the call of the duty for others, helps the community or others around them, is caring in the community. These are overlapping or separate. Who volunteers in the community, works with any group of individuals, elderly, younger people, whomever it might be. You know yourself. Get your entries into comments at highlandradio.com via email. If you prefer to write, jot it down, post it into us here, Highland Radio, Mountain Top Letter Kenny. The closing date is the 22nd of February. Now, is that the closing date for entries, Michael? And then we'll announce a winner subsequently.
Yes, that's the plan. So 22nd, and then on the 24th we'll announce the winner from there.
Great stuff, and I'm sure it's going to be on iMotors social media as well.
Yes,
reaching that demographic, and we'll keep it
it's all over ours as well.
Well plugged on our end of things. All
absolutely.
right, Sean, thank you for calling in again.
Thanks, Greg.
You're always coming in with good news ish.
That's as you always say. That's why you pay me the big bucks.
Okay, all right. Thanks once again, Seamus McLaughlin, director of iMotors, Michael Crosendike, general manager at the company, and Sean Quinn, our sales manager here at Highland Radio. Back with more shortly.
The 9 to Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota. Test drive Ireland's best-selling hybrid electric range at our showroom, Port Road, Letterkenny.
Clear Mobile has 99% 4G population coverage. So where are people going?
Out west with 4 bars and all.
Dublin, outside of Dublin.
Longford, Waterford, all the Fords.
Amazing coverage with unlimited calls, texts and data from a pretty smart $12.99 a month. But hurry, limited time offer. Clear Mobile. You clear yet? 30-day contract. Activation fee and fair usage applies. Max data speed 5 megabits per second. $12.99 subject to eligibility. Offer ends 28th of February 2023. See clearmobile.ie for terms.
At Ulster Bank, our team is continuing to close current and deposit accounts, along with some of our branches. At this time, if your notice period and your deadline has passed, your account is now queued for closure. All personal and business account deadlines are fast approaching. You must take urgent action. If you are still relying on your bank account and in need of more support, please contact us immediately. Visit ulsterbank.ie, your local branch, or call 0818 210 260. Call costs may vary and calls from mobiles may not be free. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
This January, staying in is the new going out. At Kelly's Centre Mountain Top, we've mega deals in fresh, healthy, ready meals range with great deals in our award-winning off-licence and winning offers in fresh meat and produce. Kelly's Centre Mountain Top 2022 winner of the National Forecourt Retailer of the Year.
Order. There's a lot to be said for it. Not the restrictive, always play by the book, straight down the line kind of order, but the order you place for a brand new 231 Audi. An order best placed having experienced true progress with a test drive at your Audi dealer, where you will also get advice on the options available to ensure owning your 231 Audi is as straightforward as possible, which is proper order. Visit your nearest Audi dealer, where future is an attitude.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €55 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Okay, you're welcome back to the programme. We're joined on it now by Pat Ryan, Detective Superintendent at the Garda National Cybercrime Bureau. Good morning, Pat. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Greg.
And I think that anyone listening to this programme or programmes like it, or if they're on social media, will realise now that there is an awful lot of online activity between scams that are out there, hacking, defrauding, and it's, I suppose, welcome to hear progress is being made all the while in tackling that. Talk to us about the most recent multi-agency operation that we can talk about.
Yeah, sure. I suppose the Garda National Cybercrime Bureau, we have recently actively participated in an operation called Downbreaker. And this was a Europol and internationally supported operation targeting a group known as the Hive ransomware group. And I suppose, as you know, unfortunately, the internet has no borders, and this allows cyber criminals to operate on a global scale. They will exploit computer systems where they can, and which allows them to carry out their attacks. And I suppose this is why, a coordinated approach to tackling this type of cybercrime is required. And I suppose I'll give you a little bit of background now, but Operation Downbreaker is an excellent example of the results that can be achieved by international law enforcement cooperation, by disrupting criminal infrastructure, which allows them to operate. The Hive ransomware group in the past year has been identified as a major threat to international security, as it's been used to compromise and encrypt the data and computer systems of large IT and multinationals in Europe and indeed throughout the globe. The ransomware group Hive themselves has basically been working through 2021 and 2022, and basically it is estimated that the Hive group, ransomware group, and their affiliates have collected over €100 million from over 1,500 victims in over 80 countries. So this really kind of shows you the global aspect of these ransomware groups.
And Pat, how does this kind of generally work? Is it a group of individuals in different locations? Do they have, is there a boss? Do they have high-end equipment? Are they all in one building with a network of their own computers? Is there any understanding as to how they actually operate that you can give us?
Well, to be honest with you, they're very well organised. They operate their models as like business models. This particular ransomware group works off a model what's known as ransomware as a service. Basically, developers will develop malicious software for use, and then they will have affiliates that will actually go and use that malicious software then to carry out attacks on companies, etc., throughout the globe. They, as I said, they have their business model. The Hive group themselves, basically, each affiliate will earn a percentage, so the affiliates will earn a percentage for each successful ransomware payment that's made. So when the victim is paid, if a victim pays, basically the ransom will be split between the affiliates who carry out the attacks up to 80%, and the guys, then the bad guys, the threat actors who actually develop these malicious software will earn 20%, and that's the way their model works. Basically.
Now, of course, the servers, the infrastructure has been disrupted. Have we managed to find those actually responsible for this?
Well, I suppose one of the key, like this has caused a major blow to this particular ransomware group, and disrupting their infrastructure that allows them to carry out their business is a huge success for law enforcement in the fight against cybercrime. I'm sure you can appreciate that there's a huge amount of work that goes into these investigations. By the very nature of the infrastructure that they use, as I said, they will exploit infrastructure throughout the globe. So that requires that coordinated approach. The Garda National Cybercrime Bureau is very much at the centre of this overall operation and investigation, and this will continue now that I suppose the infrastructure has been disrupted, that there's next steps to this now with regards to the threat actors themselves.
Understood. Thank you very much indeed for that. Pat Ryan, Detective Superintendent at the Garda National Crime Bureau.
County's #1 talk show, The 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
All right, it's 11 o'clock, time for a news update. Let's say good morning to Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The HSE has confirmed that the out-of-hours GP service is set to move to a site opposite Letterkenny University Hospital after receiving a notice to quit from its current base at Old Town. They're also echoing assurances given by NowDoc's clinical lead on yesterday's 9 till noon show that the relocation is not linked to a wider review of the out-of-hour GP provision in Donegal. Letterkenny University Hospital is one of 6 hospitals in the country today who do not have any patients waiting for a bed. It follows 3 patients waiting for a bed yesterday and numerous weeks of the hospital featuring in Ireland's most overcrowded hospitals in the country. Enoch Burke has once again turned up at Wilson's Hospital School in County Westmeath despite the prospect of facing a large fine. If the former teacher stays outside the premises past 2 o'clock today, he'll have to pay €700. Locals on Ironmore Island have been calling for safety barriers to be put in place on a newly constructed road headed toward the lighthouse that runs along a cliff edge. Councillor Michael Collum McGilla Asbog says he fully supports this and hopes that the concerns of the residents will be heard. A woman in her 70s has died after a fire at a property in Fermanagh. The fire broke out at around 5 to 6 yesterday evening in the Killinure Crescent area of Enniskillen. The Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service extinguished the fire, but the woman was pronounced dead at the scene. Police in the north say investigations is underway to determine the cause of the fire, and anyone with information is asked to contact police. And finally, the Sligo City Hotel is reopening on March 1st with 40 new jobs being created. It's now part of the Address Collective Hotel Group and more jobs are to be added over time. The hotel itself is located on Key Street next to Sligo City Hall, with the group operating 2 existing hotels in Dublin and 1 in Cork. That's all for now. Back again with more news headlines at 12.
Okay, Donna Marie, thank you very much for that.
Like to eat well all week at amazing Aldi prices? I like the sound of that. Feed the family for under €5 with delicious spaghetti and Irish meatballs. And from January 19th, enjoy Super 6 fresh meat offers like Irish round roast beef joint. Save 20%, now only $7.99 per kilo. Or try our weekly range of Super 6 fresh fruit and veg offers. Like 2-pack avocados, save 50%, now only 99 cents. I don't like it, I love it. Aldi, every day amazing.
Time to switch gears for the last hour of the 9 till noon show for this week, and delighted to welcome into studio once again Michael Leddy. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Writer and blogger, of course, and our own Fionnuala Rabbit. Hi, Fionnuala.
Hi.
Good to have you with us. Right,
Thank
okay.
you.
Both of you watched The Last of Us, and I would have played The Last of Us video game back. God knows when. I wasn't a big fan of them, but peer pressure, you know. So I've heard people raving about this. I think there's only 2 episodes have been put out so far. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you want to kick it off, Michael, this week?
Yeah, I like this show. You're right. People are raving about it. I like it a lot, and I'm very excited to watch the rest of the season, but I don't quite get the enthusiasm. Like, I was posting myself last night that it's not the best thing I saw this week. It's about 5th best thing I've seen, but it's very good. And the second episode was better than the first, which is hopeful for future episodes. It's based on a computer game. One of the 2 guys that created the game is heavily involved in the making of the TV show. He's one of the producers and he's one of the writers. And that's one thing that people are pointing towards and saying this works because it's the original writer. And they're contrasting it with a show I don't watch called The Witcher, which has a sort of a divided fan base.
And what is the storyline of the computer game, and also then obviously the...
So it starts the TV show, and it's a HBO production, so it's a big budget
Money's
production.
been thrown
Money
at it,
has been put on screen, and they're really going into the backstory. The first 2 episodes started with lengthy flashbacks going back 20 years, about 2003, and it's a viral outbreak, but it's based around fungi, which is very novel and different, and it's something different. And it breaks out rapidly 20 years ago, causing people to become zombified and become very violent.
Sounds familiar.
And eventually mushrooms.
Yes.
They turn into fungi.
Yes, they do. And people begin almost immediately rioting, and the only way the governments of the world can deal with this is to bomb the cities. So that was the past. That's the backstory.
So they give up on these people.
Just give up on
the only
these
way
people,
you can contain this in San Fran or something is to level it.
Yeah, and these background scenes, they're really good. Like, they get reasonably big name people in to do those. But the main thrust of the story is the present day of 2023, and it's a post-apocalyptic version of the world. Greg is rolling his eyes here. He loves all this. So basically you have a scenario where the good people that are left are inside walled cities, and you have a sort of a dodgy guy whose backstory is dealt with, a very tragic backstory is dealt with in the first episode, and he, through a variety of circumstances, is tasked with bringing himself and his partner in crime. They're tasked, the wonderful Anna Torv, who's just amazing, from the Newsreader and Fringe and other things. They're tasked with bringing a teenage girl from location A across the United States through very dangerous territories.
So half the world is destroyed.
Half the world is destroyed.
Why should we care about one girl?
Yeah, this girl, and
I don't mean that badly, but
Well, there's
this is a pretty post-apocalyptic situation.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah,
is she a saviour or something?
Skyscrapers are leaning.
Does she contain the antibody?
Well, they try and generate a bit of a mystery about that.
I mean, that's the only thing it could be, isn't it?
Yes. But in the second episode, they pull the trigger and they basically say yes.
Right. Now, I have no knowledge of this. It's not featured in the game. It's just somewhat predictable.
Yes, it is. It's very obvious what's happening.
Go on, Flu. She wants to poo on this from a great height.
I don't want to poo on it at all. First of all, like as Michael said, there are some amazing actors.
Yes.
HBO took all of the people that were in Game of Thrones who are now at home twiddling their thumbs and went, lads, you were great. let's find you something else for you to do. And there's a load of people from Game of Thrones in it. The young girl that's in it is from Game of Thrones. The
fabulous actress.
Anti-hero that you're talking about is from
Pedro.
Yeah. He's from Game
and he's
of
in
Thrones.
The Mandalorian as well, but
he's also from that, what's that, Casiel Diablo, the wine ad. So he's in loads of things.
Don't remember any wine ads. They don't mean as much to me as they evidently do to you, Fadula.
He's in them for years. But there's an amazing cast in this. Absolutely unbelievable. And even if you go on the trailers, even more amazing cast can be popping up through it, people that you'd know and recognise. But I don't understand, like Michael, the whole big hype about it, in the sense that this is not a new story.
Agreed.
They talk about how they've taken it from the video game, which would make you think, all right, okay, well, maybe the video game was doing something that nobody else is doing. But we've seen this story. It's a guy having to travel across. Do you remember we watched the thing and it was about that child that had antlers and some of the kids grew antlers. It was on Netflix. This is the exact same story.
Yeah.
You watch any of these kind of things. What is the way
was
this
the one
is
that,
now?
Was it Clive Owen or you remember the one about the they couldn't give birth and then the woman it wasn't a child.
Oh yeah. Children of the
Children of Man.
And that was something like that, wasn't it? And it was like the one woman the first woman in 20 years gets pregnant.
Right, so Fionnuala, if it is clearly a story that's been told a million times, and I think there's very few news stories, right? So then it has to do something different that makes it stand out, and then we sort of forgive the sort of rehashing of an old familiar tale. Has it done any of that?
Well, I think that's what's holding it up, is that they threw money at the problem. You know what I mean? To my mind, that they sat around.
So if you're sitting watching this on a square Cato Ray tube TV, it's no good to you then.
Well, you're going to, you definitely want to be on a nice television. But they threw money at the problem, so it's like it's very big budgety. There's lots of different stuff. It's like. You start off at one point and you kind of like, oh, this is a sort of a dystopian thing. So it reminds me of the other shows that you've seen before.
Walking Dead.
Then The Walking Dead definitely comes into it with all these kind of the zombie fights. Then now it's all coming in. They're really like monster looking things because they're like mushroom heads and all kinds of stuff. I don't know how else to describe it, but because it's the fungus thing. So they have done, and the cast, as I said, is phenomenal. Like you'd struggle to find a bad actor in it from the two bit that I've seen. The way, even like to the what you think would be the smallest little character in it, and yet you'd be like, oh God, I've seen him in 4 or 5 things. You know what I mean?
The cast is deep.
Exactly, and I think that's what's going to make it. That's what's making it stand out. Really, is the money.
Yeah.
But on a scale of people getting so excited, but then people love this kind of stuff.
But have we been waiting for something big for a while now, though? Like, if you think, when was the last big marquee
water cooler talk about afterwards kind of thing?
Maybe that's it. It's just
look, that could be it. And to be honest, this is not my cup of tea either.
Is he going to turn into a mushroom?
One thing that the show does have going for it, and it wasn't evident in the first episode, but it was in the second episode, because the first 2 episodes really work like a 2-hour movie, and you only really have the premise in the final seconds in the second episode. But when they first encounter the creatures, that was real tension. They worked the suspense there, and I think that's going to be a selling point of it as well. Now it could get old very fast, but it was good. Like that confrontation in the big building, and the creatures hear rather than see, so you can't do what I just did, which is cough. You can't do that or you're doomed. You're doomed, Greg. You're doomed.
So is a lot of it then based on anticipation, what might be?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that sounds very familiar to that game.
It reminds me of those war movies or TV shows like Tour of Duty, where you don't always have to have action scenes, but if they're walking through the jungle and any moment they might be attacked.
Has to be done well, though.
Yeah, you're like, what's happening? So they're walking through the city. Maybe for 20 minutes nothing will happen, but they have to be careful because you don't know who's around the corner. So that can pull a viewer in.
I wonder why maybe they want the name recognition of The Last of Us, because really they didn't need to probably pay whatever they might have had to pay to use the basis of this storyline, because it's been so well often done before.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming it's because it's the same writer that was involved in it, so maybe that's what it, you know what I mean? It was with the writer and that kind of thing. So, to me, it's stuff you've seen before, but they are doing it very well.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to stay watching it, and normally I would kind of walk away from this kind of thing because it's not my cup of tea. Like, I don't generally like a dystopian or any of that kind of stuff. I'm like,
well, I
life
walked
is hard
away.
enough.
I stopped watching The Walking Dead after 2 episodes because it just wasn't for me. 2 episodes of The Walking Dead, I wasn't watching.
But Walking Dead is
similar. This is similar,
Dead
but I'm going to
is
stick with it.
a regular program, but every now and again, you know what I mean? But everything else to me seems like your regular show, but every now and again there's
just
a zombie.
people in fields covered in dirt was really how I saw it. I was like,
and yet look how many series there's been in there.
9.
And how loyal the fans of that show are as well.
Like, I watched, I think, series 1 and 2 when that started, and I was like, God, this thing can like, how long can they keep this thing going? Like, and now here they are.
Long after you stopped watching it.
I know. You're like,
they have said about The Last of Us, season 1 will adapt the first game. Then they will adapt the second game. They say they might get maybe 2 seasons, but the producers have gone on record as saying they have no intention of spinning this out for like 7 or 8 seasons. They're going to adapt the 2 games and wrap it up.
Well, let's see how much money they make out of it. All right, that's The Last of Us. It's being shown weekly on Sky Atlantic, and it's based on that 2013 video game that some of you out there listening will have played, I'm sure. And it's only the latest game really that's got the Hollywood treatment. There's a couple of others. This sounds like it could be one of the most successful. Have you watched The Last of Us? The 3rd episode coming to you on Monday at 9 p.m. Let us know. 08660 25,000. WhatsApp or text that number. What else have you been watching? 07491 25,000. Have you been to the cinema? Have you read a good book? Anything at all? When we saw entertainment, it's whatever you're doing that I think is not watching or listening to the news. I think that's for me now. And TikTok is now my entertainment to some extent. Right, let's see. No, we can keep going here. I am interested in all of it, but let me see. There was something down on this is your list here. Shrinking.
So this, you're going to like this one because this one just actually landed this morning.
Okay. Did you watch it yet?
I've watched 1.5
Round of
episodes.
applause.
Wow, I'm very
It's
impressed.
it's not very hard to watch it. Now, when I say it's a half-hour comedy, it's an Apple TV half-hour comedy, as in the first one might be 35 minutes, the second one might be 32 minutes. The Apple TV love to keep you guessing as to how long you're committing to each one of their no matter what one of their shows I watch, I don't think any of them have a set runtime. It's hilarious.
But we've been so conditioned. But I suppose you want to plan. Do I have time to stick an episode in between before bed? But I suppose you could always back time it. I don't know.
I don't know. It's just a weird little quirky thing with some of their shows. This is much awaited, much anticipated. Ted Lasso is the TV program that we love.
Everyone who's watched that loves it. They adore it. Like,
it's very hard
multiple watchers, rewatch it a few times.
Oh God, I don't even want to tell you how often I watch it.
Well, that's how good it is. Yeah,
it is wonderful. It's getting ridiculous after I watch it, and very exciting that they announced what they considered the release date to Ted Lasso, and they said spring of this year. It's like, that's not a freaking date. You need an actual date.
Is that episode series 3? Is it?
It is series 3. The final, supposedly the final episode.
I think if they do that, they're going to have an all-time classic. You know, if they keep it limited to 3, like
that's what I think. What they're talking about that they wanted to do. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because one of the producers of Ted Lasso is one of the writers of this, and one of the actors/writers from Ted Lasso is also one of the writers for this. Brett Goldstein is one of the writers, and I can't think of the name of the other guy. He's in the background of Ted Lasso. He's involved in this as well, along with Jason Segel.
Bill Lawrence.
That's it.
Well done. 10 points.
Jason Segel.
He's the guy who did Scrubs.
Oh yeah, he did.
Well,
yeah,
Scrubs.
he did do Scrubs as well. But so this is basically so that's one of the reasons why this is much anticipated, because of its connection to Ted Lasso and people loving Ted Lasso, and also because this is Harrison Ford's first TV program, I think. Particularly
if you don't count
he might have done one back.
The Yellowstone spin-off thing. He's in that too.
That's but this is the first
ongoing.
That he's
you're right.
that he's been involved in, and it is actually really kind of sweet and nice. So Jason Segel, if people kind of would know him from different kind of funny comedies and How I Met Your Mother and that kind of thing, that's where he came up through it. He plays a psychiatrist who is going through his own personal trauma and grief at the moment. He is supported by a huge cast of loads of names and people that you'd see and have seen in different things along the way. And his senior therapist in the centre that he works is Harrison Ford, who is also his own therapist, as you always have in these things. Jason Segel is not coping very well with his own personal problems, and so he starts to tell his patients what he thinks. And
so it's starting to get slightly frank. He's off book.
No, it goes a little bit off book and sort of go, you know, the way you're sitting there telling them, oh God, I don't know why my mother's terrible. Like, and he's like, just move out.
Yeah.
Stop living with her.
Okay.
What do you know, that kind of a thing. So it's very kind of sweet and poignant, and it also is quite witty. There's a lot of fun in it. Even Harrison Ford is kind of the sort of grumpy, older, you know, that sort of a character in it. So every once in a while, he's
Harrison Ford, basically. So.
Yeah. To be honest, he's sort of playing himself, really. I think in some of it that I've seen so far, because he's just really there with the kind of kick up the backside sort of, you know, reality checks for them all, with that kind of like dry sort of wit that you assume Harrison Ford has, as in the characters that he plays. I don't know if he's actually like that in real life, but that's what it is. So it's very enjoyable. It's dropping on a weekly basis now. So the first 2 are on Apple TV. Apple TV has got a load of great shows. It's definitely worth, we were talking about things changing over. There's a few of them. There's a great new show about a podcast, and there's the ones that you've seen. There's
For All Mankind is on there, and
For All Mankind,
Physical is on there.
They've had quite a bit there, because I know
loved about the
some
prison.
people get their broadband. Some people get their broadband, get it for free, I think. Some people with certain mobile phone contracts get it for free as well, and you can always sign up for a trial.
Well, even it has gone up. It's up to $6.99 now, I think, per month, which is.
I think I have an LG TV, and I think through the LGVT they're offering free 3 months as a trial or something.
Yeah,
there's ways of picking this up.
There's loads of things, and if people are,
they have an amazing lineup. They do. They really
do
have a strong
some
lineup
amazing.
of shows.
If you like a good drama, they have a lot of good drama coming through in this. And
isn't that Sister Show on there? Yeah.
So in terms of this, you would try to park Ted Lasso at the door walking in, but inevitably there's going to be comparisons because the same people are involved-ish, kind of. And
it's a completely different kind of a thing in the sense that it's much more irreverent. The Ted Lasso thing is very much a feel-good. That's the kind of thing that it's going for all the time. It's all about how, good and kindness eventually triumphs. That's the kind of feeling that you get from Ted Lasso along the way. Obviously, we have to see how the 3rd season peters out. But that's the kind of feeling that you get through when you're watching it, which is why it was such a big hit, I think, during the pandemic and that kind of thing as well. It was just it's like putting on a blanket. This now is a little bit more adult, I suppose, in that sense. And like there's a little bit more language. There's a little bit more depth and grief and that kind of, you know what I mean, and that sort of a thing with it.
Challenges you a wee bit more.
Exactly. There's a little bit.
Cuddle.
It's not quite the cuddle as well, but there's just something about it that it has a nice. There's just a nice feel to it when you're watching it that I just think it's going to be really good.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Brilliant.
So.
And when the new episode's released?
It'll be every Friday now. So there's 2 down now, and then there's every Friday, and there's 10 in total.
Excellent. Okay. And did you watch? You have watched Ted Lasso. You're a big fan of that as well. And obviously you're going to watch this then.
I am going to watch this as well, And I'm going right back to Scrubs. I've been a fan of Bill Lawrence. And they're good shows.
All right. Big thumbs up then from Fionnuala so far as it relates to Shrinking. And both, you heard the reviews of The Last of Us on Sky Atlantic. Both going to continue with it. Mm-hmm. See, maybe they might actually in the subsequent episodes tell this story in a different way and surprise us, perhaps. All right, back with more from Michael and Fionnuala shortly.
The 9 to Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, where you can now test drive the newest member of the iconic Corolla family, the Corolla Cross Hybrid Electric SUV.
I heard your family pan baker has bread on the brain, says I to old Mr. Brennan. Ah, yeah, he's a proper fan of the pan, says I. That he is, says he. I'd go so far as to say that bread is his bread and butter. He eats, sleeps and breathes bread, says he. But best of all, he bakes it fresh every single day of the week. And with dedication like that, says I, it's no wonder that anything baked is better with Brennan's. Today's bread today.
We can all see how conflict affects energy supply and prices. More than ever, we need to be mindful of how we use energy. By reducing your use, you can save money and lessen the impact. Here's how. Only heat your home to the temperature you need. Use appliances efficiently. And where possible, outside the peak hours of 4 to 7 p.m. Consider walking, cycling, or public transport for short journeys. Drive at lower speeds where safe to do so. Government advice and supports are available for homes and businesses to help you meet this challenge. Find out more at gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Dillon's Hotel, Letterkenny is the perfect place to celebrate special occasions. Dillon's exclusive function rooms cater for up to 120 guests for any occasion, from corporate celebrations, presentations and networking events, to milestone birthdays, anniversaries and retirement parties. There's audio-visual equipment, integrated PA systems and even a private bar. Dillon's Hotel, perfectly located in Letterkenny Town Centre with award-winning food and 5-star service. Call 91-22977.
This January, staying in is the new going out. At Kelly Centre Mountain Top, we've mega deals in fresh, healthy, ready meals range with great deals in our award-winning off-licence and winning offers in fresh meat and produce. Kelly Centre Mountain Top, 2022 winner of the National Forecourt Retailer of the Year.
Bluebird Care are looking for you. Bluebird Care are currently seeking carers and nurses to join their ever-expanding team. Immediate starts for carers in all parts of the county, especially Letterkenny, Inishowen and Donegal Town. Bluebird Care are also looking for registered general nurses for day and nighttime 12-hour shifts. Contact Bluebird Care on 07491299562 or bluebirdcare.ie and
Text
bring
or
care
WhatsApp
home.
your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
Okay, in the company of Michael and Fanula, a caller said, read The Last of Us computer game. I had it on the PS3. It was terrifying. I couldn't play it. I was so scared. I had to get the girlfriend to play it. Got Last of Us 2 for the PlayStation 4 recently. The girlfriend's currently playing it. It looks amazing. The game is fantastic. Fantastically finished, more like a movie. Another watch, The Last of Us. Enjoyed the first 2 episodes. Hopefully it doesn't get lost in itself like The Walking Dead. Gave up on it after 4 seasons. There's a bit of that, isn't it, with the Walking Dead? I think there are a lot of us that just had enough and then...
For a lot of people, like for me in particular, I'll watch this, but it needs to have a story. You know what I mean? If they don't manage to maintain the story and it's really just people jumping out at you every second week, that doesn't do it for me. I need to have, I need to care about the people in it to some extent. Otherwise, I'm out.
Caller says, I know you're sick talking about it, but I've just finished watching all seasons of Yellowstone and it was fabulous. It's just one of those shows.
It's amazing, yeah.
No,
I'm near the end of season 3 at the moment, and I'm just going to keep watching it
What
every
is
week.
good about it?
It's good because the first season I compared to Dallas, and I stand by that. But in the second season, it becomes, and I really do mean this word, Shakespearean. It really goes into the characters and the tragic situation that they're in as a family. They're surrounded at all
What
sides.
makes us keep watching it then? Is
We
it
keep watching it.
cliffhangers? Is it
Some of
character
it's
development?
Some of it is that, but again, a lot of it is just
intrigue.
No, yeah, there's elements of that, but we really invest in the characters, and it's even the cowboys in the. Are you, Fanula, are you in season 2 yet?
I'm still on
Since
season
season
1, and I have to say, there's just something. First of all, the cast is awesome.
Yes,
like, they're absolutely
incredible.
You know what I mean? It was amazing casting, really talented people in it, and even when they're horrible, you still care about them.
Yeah,
you know that's
and it's playing the long game as a storyteller. You're in season 3 before they explain a crucial detail of the daughter's backstory, and as soon as they do that, the final piece of the jigsaw falls into place, and you
Patient storytelling.
Oh, fantastic storytelling.
All right, okay. And has anyone had sight of the prequel, the Harrison Ford prequel?
Not yet.
No, I haven't seen it come up. It's due. I thought it was supposed to be coming on Amazon or one of those, or
I need
Disney,
to look it up,
but it hasn't shown up yet. But I do have friends of mine who have watched it. I'm not 100% sure where they got it. I will not be dragged to court. Who have watched it and are loving it.
Okay.
Equally, they ploughed through the 5 seasons of Yellowstone, went straight onto the prequel, the 2 prequels now, because there's 2 prequels knocking around, and went straight onto the first prequel and are now trawling the internet to try and find the other prequel.
Fascinating. Sarah McLaughlin is in Carndonagh Community Hospital and is celebrating her 99th birthday today. Happy birthday, Sarah. We're looking forward to your party today at 2 p.m. And that's coming in from James, John, Liam and Joseph, the 4 Musketeers, going along to celebrate Sarah's 99th birthday. Have a lovely day, Sarah, from all of us here as well, of course. 14 Oscar nominations for Ireland. Obviously, very proud. I think the Banshee of Ishkahiran is doing the heavy lifting on that.
Ed Sheeran, I thought it was.
I know, I was trying to mix it up a little bit. It's doing a bit of the heavy lifting. It's been a great year for Irish film production.
Yeah, and Colleen Kuhn as well in there in the internet.
Kuhn,
yeah, I'm so
big local interest in that.
So delighted for that.
Paul Mescal. Paul Mescal from Normal People, his nomination, which is amazing. I mean, he's such a young man to be nominated in such a thing. I'm dying to see that movie.
The most liked Irish tweet in 2020 was him correcting a BBC report that he was British.
Excellent.
He just tweeted, "I'm Irish," and it was the most interacted Irish tweet of that year.
I thought it was when, don't remember the time that he wore his gold chain and his GA shorts in London and he imploded the internet. There was never such a thing.
Such
you
a
would
reaction. So we'll see how we fare. I think we'll do all right.
Yeah, look, either way, it shows the wealth of talent that's around here, and also it's just really impressive the young talent that's in it. Like Barry Keoghan was in the Banshee of Inisherin. If anybody saw him, he kind of played for best, lack of a better way of phrasing it, kind of the fool. Although he doesn't really like that description of it in the himself, but he was amazing in it, and there is definitely an actor that you want to watch out. He's also part of the Marvel universe as well. With the Eternals, so it is unknown
his
where
star
that guy's
is rising.
big. Yeah,
but even the shortlisting is very good for a film because people will go, right, shortlisted. We'll check that out.
Yeah,
so you get a second bounce on it, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking for, particularly for Colleen Kuhn. It'll get more eyes now because people will, and it'll be re-released and stuff like that.
You loved that.
Loved it. Best film I saw last year.
Yeah,
You're
to be honest, I don't know anybody. I know a lot of people that have seen it.
Jumping on the bandwagon.
There was a lot of people that really enjoyed it. They thought it was beautiful, and then other people just the cuteness of it couldn't do.
What? Who
the cuteness was too much for them. They found it kind of a bit long. But look at it. It's just amazing to think that there's so many Irish actors and as I said, and particularly young Irish actors.
Would you particularly
like to see everything a run?
Someone like Colin getting an Oscar? Do you think his career deserves it?
I would. Yeah, I would. I'd be delighted for
Colin Farr.
Yeah. I just call him Colin.
I know, you're so close.
I texted him now in a minute.
I'm torn about it because there's so many people that he's up against that I really like as well.
I suppose.
I haven't seen The Fabelmans yet, but the guy that plays the father in it, who, of course, I can't think of his name now, and I'm going to have to Google him. He's in absolutely loads of stuff over the years, and this is like his first Oscar nomination, and you're kind of like, but he's
not Judd Hirsch, is it?
Yes.
Judd Hirsch, the amazing Judd Hirsch.
Yeah.
I love Judd Hirsch,
Here's a guy that you'd love to see done.
Taxi.
Bill Nye is also, I love Bill Nye. The British actor. I just think he's amazing. So there's loads of kind of those,
Is that the fellow, sort of a slim, older guy?
Yes. He was in
Looks like he might have had a couple of bevies before.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic.
So do I. No, I don't say that's a criticism.
He would have made a great doctor. Remember we talked about this?
He would have made an amazing
Doctor Who. But for whatever reason it didn't happen. We were chatting about this.
I know, and I haven't even watched the show, and I definitely think he'd have made an amazing
You need to watch Doctor Who. You would absolutely love Doctor Who.
I don't know.
You would.
It's too many years to go back to the beginning.
2005.
There's loads of good stuff. But we are hoping over the coming weeks that we will get to see some of those movies and let you know when they're coming locally, because that's the thing about the Oscars, which seems to be, there was a time when the nominations had come out and you'd have seen them all.
Some of them were limited release and some of them were
thing has gone through, and then it seems to be a lot of stuff they seem to hold this stuff and release it towards the end of the year in time. I don't know when the last time I heard of a movie that was out in January, February that ended up in the, that ended up in, as in the big movies in the Oscars.
Yeah,
obviously,
I know what you mean.
Things like Colleen Kuhn and that are more independent movies can come out at different times. But, they tend to be out at this time and then you've missed them or they've come over. I mean, there's 2 or 3 movies there that I'm really looking forward to seeing. So,
right, okay.
Hopefully in coming weeks.
Any views on that? 08660 25,000. Let us know. The Light in the Hole on Channel 4 isn't an incredible watch, or is? It's an incredible watch, sorry. Anyone seen it? The Light in the Hole on Channel 4.
It's I know people think I watched a lot of ads. I have watched a tiny bit of it, but not enough to talk about it yet. It is a Channel 4 production. There's, again, awesome cast in it. And it seems to be that this young girl has gone missing and that they think that this guy down the road did it. And the community are kind of all trying to get him to confess and get him to do this. And it's very much in that kind of a thing.
Miniseries?
It is a miniseries, yeah. You can watch it all on the Channel 4 app.
Player. Right, okay. That's might take a note of that one. I won't read some of this message out because I'm not sure if it spoils the film. But a caller says, I hope the Banshee of Inisherin storyline is being lost. I hope it wins, or isn't being lost. I hope it wins every Oscar nomination it's up for. So I've cut a wee bit out of that because I'm not sure if it's a spoiler for the film and because I haven't seen it myself yet. All right, back with more from Michael and Fanula in a moment.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 to Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota, where you can care for your car with Toyota Relax, giving you a year's warranty with your service. Terms and conditions apply.
Bill, ní onan gach léirú I ní smóna chuige anamh timp na héireann mar na muoinú I go gcóirle alainn. Téigh léirú Bill de cheantarsa. Chuir de hic éad an áirí, inniu. Tá hasclub live is muoinethe I go gcóirle alainn.
Mr. Blue Sky, tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €55 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
At O'Malley Scanlon Insurance Brokers, they have an exciting new opportunity for ambitious individuals looking for a career in insurance with the following vacancies in their Ballybuffet and Dunlow offices. A commercial client accounts officer, experience required. A personal clients accounts officer, also experience required. A general office person with a view to being trained in insurance practices. Also, a company's accounts reconciler. Please forward your CV to Carmel at o'malleyscanlon.com.
Stylish nights and memorable delights await at radsligo.com with our fantastic January sale. Escape it all with 25% off B&B stays and enjoy a well-deserved breakaway. Indulge in afternoon tea overlooking Sligo Bay, relax with a treatment at the spa, enjoy a delicious meal in the Brasserie and Waves Bar, or surround yourself with the best of Sligo's outdoor pursuits right on your doorstep. 25% off sale ends 31st of January. Book now at radsligo.com.
At F&F, there's 25% off all clothing until this Sunday the 29th with your Tesco Club card. That's 25% off getting your extra fabulous New Year, new wardrobe sorted. Now that's worth popping in for. F&F. Fashion at Tesco. Products subject to availability. Available in the majority of larger stores.
All right, now coming to on Grianon Theatre in Letterkenny on the 17th of February is Living Dread's production of Dante Dan, directed by Aaron Monaghan, who I'm sure the name is familiar from the Banshee of Inisherin. And we're joined on the programme now by David Roll, who is part of this production. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Lovely to be chatting to you.
How are you keeping?
Not too bad, thanks. And yourself?
The same. Right, David, tell us a little bit about this production and what people can look forward to in Letterkenny on the 17th of February.
Well, it's an absolutely gas comedy set in Cork, kind of in the arse end of nowhere, about a group of 5 teenagers who are growing up and are bursting with curiosity and questions about their changing bodies, about puberty and about sex. And basically, over the course of this long, hot summer, due to boredom and raging hormones, they decide to try and find out as many answers to these questions as they can. And it starts from a place of kind of comic, innocence, and then it leads into something a little more serious with more consequences. So, yeah.
I don't want to do any disservices, but I love these shows. Are we in the sort of, in-betweeners kind of territory to some extent? Is not, I'm not saying it's anything like it, but is that kind of the space we might be in?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely...
Which effectively is just young lads speaking about their bits crudely, I suppose. That's the only commonality. Right, okay. But yeah, I get it. And just to let people know, it's recommended for 15 plus because it contains strong language and adult themes. But what do you think the attraction is? It relatable? Obviously, it's clearly funny and all that kind of stuff. But why do you think people will enjoy this?
I think everybody remembers what it's like to be a teenager and to know absolutely nothing, but to be letting on that you know everything. And that kind of scenario of just being kind of kept ignorant of all these things and kind of having to work it out for yourself. I think it's a really, really relatable kind of story, and I think everyone will see themselves in the characters as they're portrayed and be reminded of what an idiot they were when they were that age.
Yeah, exactly, and maybe give some parents an insight into what teenagers like as well, if they themselves lived a sheltered life. So it lends itself well to the stage, then, presumably the way it's all set up.
Totally. I mean, it's a very kind of theatrical piece. I mean, everything about it is kind of that over the top kind of, but still quite truthfully grounded style, which is just, it's really satisfying for an actor to go out in front of an audience and to know that you're doing a show that's genuinely funny, and to actually give them the freedom to kind of laugh at all these wonderful characters. And that's been kind of our joy of taking this on the road. We started in Cavan there 2 nights ago. We're into Roscommon again tonight, and then we're on the road for the next couple of weeks. So
yeah, and we can't wait to welcome you up into Letterkenny. Is it fun to be involved in, David? Because it is work and it's tough work, but I suppose if you enjoy work, it's not really light work. Is it tough, or are you enjoying it and with the people that you're working with? Because it sounds like it could be fun too.
I genuinely think that of all the plays I've done, this is the most fun to do on stage, because I think with this one, the actors are enjoying it just as much as the audience are. There's so much energy, there's so much life to these characters that they kind of burst onto the stage, and there's no self-consciousness because they're teenagers, and there's a real joy in getting to explore that and to getting to throw yourself into it every night.
And do you think, whilst we expect everyone to enjoy it, do you think what's the feedback been from people who were perhaps teenagers in and around the 70s? There's a bit of nostalgia there. Is it even more relatable for that generation, I wonder?
Totally, especially because there's a lot of music in it from the 70s. You've got the Archies and Mungo Jerry in the Summertime, and you've just got so many wonderful songs. And certainly when my dad was watching it, he was just like, it was the music more than anything else that kind of took me back to that time, and I remembered what it was like. And that's the response from a lot of people of that generation. But then younger generations are really connecting with it as well, which is really nice. My own age, really just seeing themselves on the stage, I suppose, when they were at that age.
And we talk about how tough it is to be a teenager now. It was never very easy, really, if the truth be told. There's different challenges in different ways. This gives us an insight into that teenage life in the 70s as well, with everything that it brings, the joy and the agony as well. All right, I wonder, will he come back, or is he frozen never to return? I suspect it might be the latter. Okay, listen, we do appreciate your time. The network's let us down there, not on our side, which is refreshing. That was David Roll. You'll know him from Moon Boy as well, actually. So there's a great cast involved in that play. Aaron Monaghan, who you would know from the Banshee of Inisherin, he's the director. It's Living Dread's production of Dante Dan, and it is coming to An Grianon Theatre in Letterkenny on the 17th of February at 8 p.m. Tickets are €15 or €12. There's a booking fee of €1 per ticket, and the advisory here is that it's for 15-plussers, as it contains strong language and adult themes, but it sounds to me like they're strong teenage themes. I don't know, maybe we should give our younger ones a little bit more credit. This is not a criticism or whatever, but it's about them.
Yes.
So they could do it outside, but they can't come in and listen to it. Do you know what I mean?
I think sometimes you wonder about the sense, the way that they're probably, that censor rating is probably given to them rather than...
Exactly, but I think
they don't generate it themselves.
I think it's guidance.
It goes with it.
Greg, the Banshee's all right. It's very overrated, though. They should have focused a bit more on the political turmoil of the time. They don't write plays like The Field anymore, but there is so much Irish literature that remains untapped by the film industry, unfortunately. And it is a bit... I'm not saying it's quite Marmite, The Banshee, but it's different views on it. Some of them, it's the best thing they've ever seen. Second season of Mayor of Kingstown has started. Picks up directly after the aftermath of season 1. Exceptional viewing. from the Taylor Sheridan, who created The Mary of Kingstown. That's not.
I'm dying to see that.
That's not the
Jeremy Renner show. It's Jeremy Renner's show and it's a prison, and it's again it's.
I haven't seen the first series. I'm confusing that with the one that was in
Mayor of Easttown. Mayor of Easttown. Which I didn't like at all. But
the Jeremy Renner thing now, I don't know what's going to happen with it, because after his accident now, he won't be. I think it'll be 2 years before he'll be recovered.
They've said that the producers have said, one of the other producers have said they'll work with the situation, they'll roll with it, because he's key to the show. So
that's what I'm saying.
It hasn't been commissioned yet for a third season anyway. It hasn't been picked up yet, so but it is a hit show,
Right.
I'm more concerned about his impact on Marvel. God forgive me, it's awful, but he's going to be fine.
He is going to be fine.
He's going to be fine. He broke a lot of bones, but he's going to be fine.
Trying to save.
All right, Kevin from Dunlow's giving us an update on his watching of The Rig. Sadly, I found myself drifting away from watching The Rig, but maybe the wind will change.
Oh,
well, I hadn't realised that Rose, geologist, is actually from Schitt's Creek. It's certainly been a week for comeback stars, as 20-year-old Colin Farrell punching a girl into Mission and Mad Oscar factor, both on Our Brother and Sister in the Banshee of Inisherin. But now Ireland punching above its weight with 14 Oscar nominations.
Yes.
And Callian Kuhn with Donegal Connections, which we spoke about during this exact item. Okay.
I liked that review of the Rig.
I don't think that kind of behaviour should be encouraged. I really don't.
Yeah.
I think
you who would never use a
I certainly wouldn't.
No, you're above that.
Not in my vocabulary.
You're very highbrow comedy coming from Greg at all times.
Right, that's on air. Okay, so the people we hate at the wedding, we kind of almost touched on this a couple of times, Fionnuala, but I don't think we ever got around to actually. It's an Amazon show, so if you have Amazon Prime for your deliveries, you get it for free.
Yeah, it's an Amazon movie that's on. It's just. I have not seen Kirsten Bell in anything for a while. She kind of went to TV and did quite a few really good TV programs, and we haven't seen her sort of back doing movies and stuff again. The last movie she was in, I think, was like Chips or whatever, which was with her husband, Dak Shepard.
Oh, yeah. I missed that, actually.
But this is really a great cast in it. Alison Janney plays their mother. It's about 3 kids, 2 children that live in America. Their stepsister lives in the UK, and they're all invited over to England for the wedding. It's not something that you haven't seen before. It's that kind of a little bit of a slapstick comedy, that kind of a thing in it. But if you're looking for something that's just nice and light,
is it funny?
It is funny. Yeah,
as funny as.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't. You can't. It's hard to. I know it's hard to compare funny, isn't it? Different things, in different movies, because for different reasons. This is just this is not going to win any awards. It's not, it's not the type of movie that they make. You know what I mean? As in, Kirsten Bell does this kind of stuff, and it's all just kind of very sort of relaxed and soft. But if you're sitting down with a glass of wine, you're thinking
bang
to yourself,
it on, and you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Exactly. You will not be disappointed.
Can you watch it without wine?
I do find myself.
Do we need to have a conversation about
the wine?
No.
Wine. Saturday night, I'm thinking.
What you accused of being obsessed with is slightly higher in the issue than what it was.
What was that?
Come here. Nothing bad. Sometimes I find I want to watch something, but I don't want to be overly challenged. I don't want to have to think too much.
I agree.
And
at the end of a busy day.
Exactly. Yeah.
You just want to. That's exactly what this is. You're not going to be
stick something on.
Exactly. You're going to put something on. You're going to sit down and watch it. Anybody in the family can kind of sit around. Well, obviously above a certain age, there's a bit of language, that kind of stuff in it. But you can just sort of sit back, relax it, on a Saturday night, watch something.
Is it on the granny-o-meter?
It's low on the granny meter now. You're okay with your granny. There's nothing to.
Not
just
our granny, your.
Yeah, your granny is the.
That's the metric.
Yeah,
but
don't throw other grannies in now and confuse the thing.
But it's very. No, it's just one of those really kind of nice movies that you just sit down and you.
The people we hate at the wedding. Now, Fionnuala's not saying it's gonna win any Oscars or anything, but it's a good old film to watch.
Well, just as you say, sometimes you just don't want to watch it, and that you have to kind of fully engage.
I'm in that space. Yeah,
that you just want something that you can kind of sit there, that you're going to have a couple of laughs, and that you're not going to be halfway through it and go, oh God, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Lovely stuff.
This is exactly
right. More from our guests after these.
The 9 to Noon Show, brought to you by Kelly's Toyota. Test drive Ireland's best-selling hybrid electric range at our showroom, Port Road, Letterkenny.
Don Meats set to buy Kildare Chilling. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
We look at what the deal means for sheep and beef farmers. Bold be it to ratchet up farm audits for all farmers. We reveal factory prices vary by over €300 for the same animal. Sheep farmers squeezed as costs rise and prices fall. We have the latest on the controversial Quilcha forestry deal. And could virtual fences be a game changer for farmers?
Only inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
Urgent news. The house-proud group stock disposal sale at the Strabane store must end this Sunday. All remaining clearance stock has been transferred to the store and final price cuts made, with drastic reductions on furniture for every room. The massive stock disposal sale at Houseproud Abercorn Square, Strabane. Sale ends 6 p.m. Sunday. Also at the OMA store.
At Centra this week, we have great mega deals in the Centra range. Like Centra Family Meals 1.2 kilo selected range now €5 each. Centra Gold Blend tea bags 80 pack now €1.20. And Centra Soft Quilted Bathroom Tissue 18 roll now €5. Smart choices, choose Centra. Centra. Live every day.
BizPrint now offer printed mugs, cotton bags, rulers and pens. They make printing easy and affordable with quality colour printing to suit all businesses and budgets. Call BizPrint in Letterkenny on 91777955 or visit bizprint.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Discover Edinburgh this summer with Ryanair's 3 times weekly service. Stunning architecture, endless winding streets and an awe-inspiring castle. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Okie doke, it's going to be a dry day for the most part, although cloud will gradually build from the northwest with some outbreaks of rain pushing later in the evening. Another rather cool day with highest temps of 6 to 8 degrees in just light southwesterly or variable breezes. Now, what are you doing at the start of May? Would you like to come with us in our luxury travel for a trip to the Crown Plaza Hotel in Glasgow? It's Highlands Fling in Glasgow, and we've got some great acts for you right across the 3 nights. Night 1, 1st of May, David James and the Ryan Turner Band. On the 2nd of May, the Tuesday, the concert with Declan Early and many, many more. And on the 3rd, the Wednesday the 3rd, Robert Merzell. Now, what we'll do is we pick you up from here and we drive you in our luxury travel all the way over, and then we book you into your hotel and you get the accommodation included, you get breakfast, then you get dinner, you get entertainment each evening, not just the entertainment I've mentioned, but also the crack that generally goes along with these events, and there's luxury coach transport. So we can take all the hassle away from you, and if you want to book your place now, and places are limited as you can imagine, a €100 deposit will do that for you. The total's $575 and you can pay it in over the next while between your deposit, of course, and departure. $575 in total per person sharing, and there's been a great interest in this already, so please don't leave it too long and miss out. But we do recognise, of course, that it's a considered purchase, but you get a big bang for your buck and you'll have a lovely time. And the hotel very central as well in Glasgow, so you can go and explore or do whatever you want during the day, or just lie in bed and put your feet up while someone else looks after the kids or the farm or whatever it might be. But we'd love you to come along with us, so you can book right now. We'll get more details, in fact, from Katie on 074 91 25,000. So for €100 today, you can guarantee that you've got that at the start of May to look forward to. And yesterday we asked you, because I was trying to blag my way onto this trip, we asked you to text in and say that you think it'd be good if I went and did a show from there, for example. And one person, Fanula. So if we are living in a democracy, enjoy it. I'll just have to stay here.
We'll send you a postcard.
Was that from your other phone, Greg, that text message?
No, actually, my
Tell
number,
Ashton to stop texting.
That'd be the last person who'll be sending that text, I think. Right, okay, so that's the 1st to the 4th of May, and it's a nice wee buzz about it too. Sinead Banks there as well. Who else? I don't actually have the list of names, but you were mentioning them yesterday.
Olivia Douglas, John McNichols, Sinead Black.
John McNichols is brilliant in and of himself.
Absolutely.
They all are, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no.
Some of them I've seen, some of them
Robert Mazzell and his band, Ryan Turner and his band, our own David. Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay, cool.
And we've loads of good karaokeers that'll be given their own.
Yeah, well, that's the bit you see that I feel I'm going to be missing out on. But anyway, sure, look at. But anyway, it's from the 1st to the 4th of May. The 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel. It's a beautiful hotel and lots of stuff to do within the grounds of the hotel, but also, of course, in and around the city. And also, we all have family in Scotland. Even maybe invite them to call over for one of the shows. Tickets will be available on the door for them, and they can join you. So there's loads of reasons why, because we've got huge connections between this part of the world and Scotland. I mean, they're interchangeable really at this point. All right, get on to Katie now, 07491 25,000 for more details, or just to make sure you've got it in the bag booked. Right, okay, The Peripheral on Amazon, Michael. What's this about?
Yeah, Peripheral is science fiction action show from late last year.
What about Romantic Getaway? What's that?
Yeah, we can switch if you want.
Go on. Lots of people love this trash.
Yeah, well... So this is a sci-fi action show that I watched on Amazon, 8 episodes before Christmas. It's the same people that made Westworld. Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy.
Is it as confusing?
Yes.
Okay.
Possibly more so. I was a huge fan of Westworld.
Is it racy? Is it racy?
No, it's not in the same way. No, it doesn't have those elements. So I was a big fan of Westworld.
Never heard them called elements before.
Well, yeah, elements. No, we're back to those teenage boys pondering their parts or whatever. I'm still doing that, so I'm not a teenager. So Peripheral is a sci-fi action series. Jonathan Nolan, Lisa Joy. I was a huge fan of Westworld. Even the last season, which I thought pulled off some great storytelling ideas, but the last episode left me cold. It was disappointing because Westworld was cancelled and they don't get to finish the story. They don't get a 5th season.
Oh.
They are, however, working on Amazon, and this show has many of the same elements. It's got the robot bodies. It's got a very attractive leading lady who they have dressed in the same way. Anyone who watched...
actor?
She's very good, yeah. Chloe Grace Moritz.
Important too, isn't it?
Chloe Grace Moritz. But they've slicked back her hair. They put her in the same outfit as the leading, as Dolores. And she's kick-ass fighting. And the fight scenes in this show are spectacular, just like on Westworld. So what's it about? About 10 years in the future, 2031, 2032, brother and sister in the hillbilly country of America. Pardon my phraseology. They're gamers, professional gamers. She's particularly good, and they earn their money by playing tournaments, and they're playing...
Which a lot of people do.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a real thing. There was a great documentary I watched on Netflix about it a couple of years ago. It's really worth checking out. I can't think of the name of it. They are very good at the games. They play games like Last of Us, ironically. They get sent a headset, and the headset is for beta testing, and they're going to get a fortune to beta test this new headset. Yes. She puts it on, and it takes her to a futuristic world.
Right. Sounds like Jumanji.
70 years in the future.
Doesn't it the new Jumanji?
Oh, is that what that is? It is.
They're playing with a console and they get sucked into the game.
Okay. So in this, when she puts this on, it's a virtual reality world. It's 70 years in the future. It's the turn of the century, and it's a dystopian.
70 years in
her future. In her future.
So it's 80 in total.
Yes, 80 years. Yeah, exactly. So it takes you to the end of this century, basically. All right. So we're in the year 20.
I don't know anybody ever knows what we're talking about.
21. So
it's not good radio, is it?
So it's 21. The year is 21, and it's London. It's the future, and the population has been wiped out. She's been sent on
floating cars.
Okay. She's been sent on various missions or whatever to do for the people she meets there, and she says this is the best virtual reality. She's amazed. It's full immersion. She can't get over it. Then at the end of the first episode, she gets a message back in the real world telling her the headset is not what she thinks it is. It's not a virtual reality.
It's a time machine.
It's time travel. And this is how the first episode ends, and I'll say no more. Because of stuff that she's seen and done, a hit team has been dispatched, and at that moment we see 2 of those black SUVs arriving in town, guys pulling out with their weapons.
Yes.
They have been in 2032. They're coming to kill her now.
Ooh.
So the show works on 2 timelines: the present day of 2030-ish, and the far future of London.
Right, so it's like Jumanji meets Terminator
meets Westworld.
Okay.
Yeah, because she's in robot body. Well, and it looks amazing. The fight scenes now. It's based on a novel. William Gibson, who at one point the Guardian said was the most important novelist of the past 20 years.
Wow.
They said that 20 years ago. I don't know if it still stands 40 years on, but it's part of a trilogy. So the first season, I think, adapts the first book. Very highly regarded book. I thoroughly enjoyed the series, but I would say over the 8 episodes, it's the same thing I say a lot. Is there enough story for 8 hours here?
Yeah.
I felt it dragged in the middle. By the end, it got very complicated.
And I've said this when you said that. if you watch it in 3 blocks,
maybe
sometimes
maybe it's better.
You don't pick up on that as much as if you watched
episodic.
it once a week. You know, and I think you don't really have if you're binging something.
Yeah,
you have a bad but it's a bad spell rather than a.
It's in the middle.
Amazon did drop this one a week, so they dropped it one a week. I think they did 3 the first week, and then they dropped them every week. The action scenes were amazing. The cast are very good. In the present day, I'll tell you, you get a lot of military style action. You get a lot of stuff that looks like, because her brother is part of a military unit, and those guys come together, and it's slightly sci-fi because they've all got implants, and they can connect to drones. Drones are using. The fight scenes are fantastic. I thought the story moves slowly, but it is a good story. And by the end of the season, they had set up multiple timelines, and it has been picked up for season 2, and it's going to fill the Westworld void for me.
I don't think I might watch it actually. I might watch it despite your review recommendation. Right, listen. Thank you.
Can you take the knife out of my back there that Greg just placed in
Constantly there.
It's always there.
You better tell people what the name of the show is again after all that.
The Peripheral.
On Amazon.
On Amazon.
I wish I could go into the past and not ask you. Maybe go to Romantic Getaway.
Romantic Getaway. We'll talk about Romantic Getaway next week.
Actually. I am actually probably going to watch that. So
Romantic Getaway?
Yeah. No, the Peripheral. I'm just being an agent. Listen, thank you very much, Michael. I really appreciate it. As always, lovely to have you up, and great to hear your views. And of course, Fionnuala, the same applies to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
And that's where we have to leave it on the 9 till noon show for another week. Have a wonderful weekend if you can. We're back with you on Monday morning, of course, at 9 o'clock. But for me, Greg Hughes, Caroline Orr, who researched and produced, and all the team, chat to you Monday. John Bresson's coming up next.
The 9 to noon